I was half asleep, briefly convinced I'd died in a hospital bed. Sunlight cut through deep blue velvet curtains. The air smelled like expensive incense. I mashed my face into something soft and squishy. A pillow? Nah, hospital pillows were never this good. Wait, hospital? I jolted awake. Two sets of memories slammed into my head at once. One, Xiaoyan, sleep-deprived Earth student, professional all-nighter victim. Yeah, that's me. The other, Eli Black, rich bastard noble with a bedroom fancy enough to file taxes. Apparently that was me too. Cool. Cool. While I fantasized about noble life, a knock sounded at the door bearing the black raven crest. Young Master Eli, are you awake? Asked the butler, Sebastian. Yes, come in. I straightened, mimicking the nonchalant tone of the original owner. The door slid open. The butler entered, impeccably dressed in a black tailcoat with silver gray hair. Two maids followed. Good day, young master, Sebastian bowed. Today is your 18th naming day. Your brother and Lady Livia are waiting in Dawn Hall. Please prepare for the family meeting. I realized this was my coming-of-age milestone. I expected a typical bastard's fate. Exile to a small southern town or a hot spring estate to live off a pension. Perfect for a life of leisure. With this in mind, I let the maids dress me in a deep blue velvet suit with silver embroidery. I looked the part, my blue eyes bright with anticipation. Thank you, Miss Selina, I said, following the butler. Selina looked surprised. Sebastian led me through the cold, grand corridors of the Black Estate. Ancestral portraits watched me with stern, judging eyes. Dawn Hall was flooded with light. A massive crystal chandelier hung above a long table made of rare wood, where everyone was already seated. At the head sat his eldest brother, Salus Black. The heir wore a formal black suit with the family's raven badge. He was distracted, tapping his fingers on a document. To his right sat Livia Black, my stepmother, wearing a gray high-collared dress with an eagle brooch. Her posture was perfect, her expression icy. Her gaze locked onto me without a flicker of warmth. The pressure, and clear disdain, was palpable. Below them sat the family's vassal knights. They ranged from stern, gray-haired veterans to shrewd lords and curious young knights. The atmosphere was suffocating. I took my seat at the end of the table, opposite his second brother, Royce, who ignored me while fiddling with a gold pocket watch. Salus cleared his throat. We are here to discuss Eli's coming of age and his future. Salus looked at me, making me tense. Livia spoke coldly. Eli is of age. It is time he contributes to the Black family. The western border needs fresh blood to uphold the kingdom's glory. It is the perfect place to temper a young man. A murmur rippled through the vassals. Some looked sympathetic, others gloated. Royce choked on his tea, his face turning red. He suppressed his cough, glaring at Salus with clenched fists. A veteran knight broke the silence. Begging your pardon, Lady Livia, does the Marquis know of this? Of course, Sir Armand. This is Marquis Leon's will, she replied. Armand nodded, silent. Mother's proposal is timely, Salus added. The kingdom's expansion edict encourages young nobles to serve. The West is dangerous but full of opportunity. Eli, as a Black, must shoulder this duty. Salus looked at me with complex emotions. By family decree, Eli Black is hereby appointed an expansion knight. Do not fail the family name. Go forth and earn your glory. All eyes turned to me. My throat went dry. I looked at these cold, unfamiliar faces. My dreams of a peaceful, lazy life were shattered. I blurted out, "Wait me." Standing in the suffocating hall, I felt the floor turning to quicksand. The West? An expansion knight? My lazy life dream was dead. Livia's smirk was faint, and the vassals' gazes stung like needles. Just as the pressure threatened to crush me. Ding. Survival instinct detected. Binding conditions met. World Intelligence Assistance System initializing. Binding successful. Host, Eli Black. Newbie gift, 10x intelligence draw issued. A cold, synthetic voice echoed in my mind. What the hell? I nearly jumped. A cheat code? The standard transmigrator perk. Joy washed away my despair. I bit my lip to hide my excitement, hope igniting in my eyes. I straightened my back, forcing myself to remain calm. The look of confusion vanished, replaced by a mask of resignation, frustration, and hidden resolve. I turned to the head of the table, my voice cutting through the whispers. Mother, brother, regarding my assignment to develop the western border. I paused, meeting Lady Livia's displeased gaze, and added, I have no objections. Lady Livia set down her teacup, emitting a faint, scrutinizing sniff. It is good you understand the family's intentions, she said coldly. I maintained my composure, masking my true thoughts. Serving the family is my duty. However, developing the wilderness requires resources. I need the family's support. Livia nodded curtly. We shall discuss the details privately. I immediately interrupted with a respectful yet firm smile. Why not settle it now, with everyone as witnesses? It will save you the trouble of further meetings, mother. A ripple of suppressed laughter and knowing glances spread across the table. The vassals exchanged looks. The boy was clever, leveraging their presence to force his mother's hand. With the vassals watching, Livia could not afford to be stingy without damaging the Black family's reputation. Sending a marquis's son to the frontier with nothing would be a disgrace. Livia's icy mask cracked as she glared at me, and I met her gaze with innocent clarity. The tension hung heavy for 5 suffocating seconds. Very well, Livia hissed. 500 gold coins for development funds. You shall have 10 family knights as an escort and 1 month's worth of rations for 10 men. The vassals nodded silently. For a suicide mission, this was a standard, face-saving amount. It was enough to maintain aristocratic decorum. While 500 gold was a fortune to a commoner, it was a pittance for establishing a new stronghold. I had anticipated this. I bowed impeccably. Thank you for your generosity, mother. I would also like to select these 10 knights myself. You. Livia's fury flared, but before she could snap a refusal, a voice cut her off. Granted. It was Salus. He looked at me with complex eyes, perhaps a flicker of relief that his brother was finally fighting for himself. You may choose your own knights, Salus declared. He scanned the room, then locked eyes with me. You have 3 days to prepare. Depart at dawn on the 3rd day. Livia's chest heaved, but she only let out a cold, sharp huff. She rose and swept out of the dawn hall without another glance. The meeting that decided my fate concluded in a way no one expected. Back in my room, I locked the door and exhaled, my back drenched in cold sweat. Negotiating under my stepmother's murderous glare and the vassal's scrutiny had been terrifying. But it was worth it. 500 gold, 10 hand-picked knights, supplies, 3 days, and most importantly, my information system. I focused my mind. System interface. A translucent blue screen appeared, displaying the information acquisition module. In the corner, the newbie gift pack glowed like a treasure. Information acquisition, a gacha system with a pity mechanic? I muttered, my mouth twitching. Even in another world, I can't escape gacha games. I sighed, but my eyes burned with anticipation. I took a breath and focused. Use newbie gift pack. 10 pull. Newbie gift pack opened. 10 pull initiated. 10 beams of light flashed across the screen. White. Hans, the tax collector, is having an affair with a maid at the Golden Finch Inn. White. Old John's secret recipe. Honey bread contains 15% cheap syrup. White. Butler Sebastian is addicted to almond cookies from the East District's Sweetheart Bakery. White. A 1-hour light rain shower is expected in the East District tomorrow afternoon. Blue. A detailed map of the Orlando Kingdom left by a mercenary is hidden at Lame Tom's Black Market Stall in Mole Alley. Blue. Family Knight Orlando is struggling to pay for his mother's medical bills. Blue. A nearly complete set of alchemy tools lies forgotten in a corner of the family warehouse. Blue. Brandon, a former elite scout, was demoted to stable manager for his blunt personality. Blue. Leon, a talented blacksmith's apprentice, is at risk of being sent to the mines for his lack of sycophancy. Purple. Wolfgang Frostclaw, Wolfkin chieftain, silver mid-rank, currently severely wounded and desperate for treatment. Location, Blackstone Town Slave Market. Key to recruitment. Give him hope for revenge and tribal restoration. Risk extremely high. Seeing the purple tier intel, my breath hitched. This was a god-tier start. The risk was immense, but the potential reward would transform my entire foundation. System, I grinned. Your gossip is annoying, but the intel is top tier. The next morning, a loud pounding at my door broke the silence. Royce Black burst in, his face twisted in annoyance. Hey, Royce barked. He tossed a heavy leather pouch at me. I caught it. It felt like at least 100 gold coins. What is this? I asked. Salas told me to give it to you, Royce spat. 100 gold. He calls it compensation. What a hypocrite. He's the one sending you to your death. I gripped the heavy coins in silence. Royce grabbed his hair in frustration. Are you stupid? The western border is a death trap for monsters and bandits. You're a low-level amateur who's only ever cared about drinking and chasing girls. What are you going to do there? Feed the monsters? I can find someone to take your place. Just go south or anywhere else. Just don't come back. Royce, this is my choice. I'll take responsibility, I said, my voice steady. Royce stared at me, seeing a version of his brother he didn't recognize. The carefree, empty-headed playboy was gone. Oh, and dear brother, about the remaining 500 gold. I added with a sycophantic grin. Royce twitched, wondering if he'd hallucinated the previous moment. The butler will bring it, he muttered. One last tip. There's a young knight named Ika. I've dealt with him. He's decent. And, Eli, come back alive. Royce turned and stormed out. I tossed the coin bag, smiling. It was time to move. I walked briskly through the courtyard toward the old stone stables. In a quiet corner near the haystacks, I found my target, a gray-haired, bearded man. Brandon leaned against an empty fodder cart, methodically whittling a piece of wood with a small knife. Brandon. I approached. The middle-aged man paused, looking up with eyes that were cloudy yet sharp, holding the weight of many years. He calmly appraised the flamboyant young marquis, standing out of place in the stable. Yes, young Master Eli, Brandon rasped. Do you need help with the horses? Not the horses, I replied, locking eyes with him. I'm here for you, Brandon. Brandon showed a flicker of surprise. I'm just an old, lame stable hand. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. A former elite scout of the kingdom who served my father in the southern campaigns. Wasting your talent here is a crime. Brandon's thin frame stiffened as he stared at me, searching for the truth. Where did you hear that? Brandon asked, his voice tight with suspicion. My dear brother, of course, I said with a knowing, sincere smile. The point is, I know your true value. You shouldn't be rotting in a pile of hay. I paused, watching the veteran's lips tighten and chest heave, knowing I had struck a nerve. Royce told me himself. I pressed on. He said the family was wasting a real treasure by treating you like scrap metal. If he were in charge, he would have promoted you long ago. Brandon remained silent, rubbing the wood in his hands. Finally, he spoke with a strange, wry smile. Young master, your words are certainly stirring. It's been a long time since anyone thought so highly of this old man. He looked at me, offering a deceptively simple smile and pointing to his ear. But I'm old, and my hearing isn't what it used to be. Could you repeat that praise? I didn't quite catch it. My smile twitched. Playing deaf, are we? I took a breath and dropped the act. The sincerity vanished, replaced by the sharp, commanding tone of a young noble. Brandon, pack your things. You are no longer a stable hand. You are hereby conscripted as a staff officer for Expansion Knight Eli Black. You will handle route planning, wilderness survival, and security. Effective immediately. As for your hearing, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you have no right to refuse. I stared him down. Brandon's simple expression faded into a look of profound depth. As you command, Lord Eli, he replied, his voice clear and steady. Success. I turned and strode out of the stables, leaving Brandon behind. Brandon ran a finger over his blade, a faint smile touching his lips. I headed straight for the castle's forge. Before I even arrived, the rhythmic clanging of hammers and the hiss of hot iron hitting water filled the air. The forge was a furnace of activity. The supervisor, Hark, a stout, thick-necked man, was barking orders until my arrival silenced the room. Hark froze, then hurried over with a sycophantic, professional grin. Young Master Eli, what brings you to this dirty place? Do you need a new weapon or custom tack? I ignored him, my gaze sweeping over the apprentices. Leon, I said clearly. Which one is Leon? Step forward. A sturdy young man in the crowd looked up, his eyes wide with panic and disbelief. He instinctively glanced at Hark. Hark's smile faltered. He knew Leon was a talented but stubborn apprentice. Master, you want Leon? He's just a clumsy apprentice. Let me find you a master smith instead. Shut up, I interrupted. I asked for Leon. Where is he? Hark's face darkened, but he pointed to the pale youth in the corner. That's him, master. I walked straight toward the boy. I stood before Leon, ignoring the curious stares of the other apprentices. Leon trembled, clutching his soot-stained clothes. You're Leon? I asked flatly. Why, yes, master. Good. I turned to Hark, chin raised. He's mine now. He's no longer an apprentice. He's my personal blacksmith. We're leaving. What? Hark's eyes bulged. Master, that's against the rules. He's still in training, and we're short-staffed. Rules? I sneered. My word is the rule. Short-staffed. I looked around, my voice rising. That's your problem to solve, not mine. I want him, he comes with me. Any objections? Hark's face turned a deep, mottled purple, veins throbbing on his forehead. He couldn't afford to offend the notorious playboy, especially knowing Eli was being exiled to the death trap of the western border. A malicious thought crossed his mind. He won't live long anyway. He forced a pained smile. No objections. It's an honor for him to serve you. Take him, by all means. He waved Leon away, while I maintained my arrogant facade. I ignored the petty man and looked at the stunned Leon. Pack your tools. You work for me now. Leon snapped out of his daze, bit his lip, and rushed to the corner. He grabbed a box of simple tools and stood silently behind me. Let's go. I turned and swaggered out of the forge under the complex gazes of the workers. Behind me, I could hear Hark's suppressed rage. 2 key pieces secured. Now for the real challenge. After settling Leon, I headed to the training grounds. The sound of shouting and clashing steel grew louder as I approached. Dozens of knights in leather or chainmail were engaged in intense sparring. Others practiced charging or striking wooden dummies. I watched from the shadows. I observed their movements and the varying levels of battle chi radiating from them. I clenched my fist, feeling a faint, metallic hum of energy, the raven-breathing technique of the Black family. Unfortunately, my predecessor had been lazy. I was barely at the low silver rank, and compared to these veterans, I felt like a weakling. My eyes landed on a rack of longbows. As an archery enthusiast in my past life, I was drawn to them. Suddenly, a roar of applause erupted from the center of the field. A massive knight in high-quality plate armor had just sliced a thick, iron-reinforced training dummy in half with a single, precise strike. It's him. I recognized Captain Roland, a high silver ranker. I knew I couldn't recruit such a man. Livia and Salus would never allow it. I composed myself, put on a casual smile, and walked toward the center of the field. Magnificent. A truly brilliant strike, Captain Roland. My voice cut through the noise, silencing the field. Everyone knew of Eli's upcoming exile to the western border. Roland turned, his face stoic. He performed a standard knight's salute. Young Master Eli. No need for formalities, Captain, I replied loudly. As you've likely heard, the family has appointed me as an expansion knight to establish a stronghold in the western border wilderness. I raised my voice. Developing the wilderness is no one-man task. I need loyal, brave partners. I am here to select 10 knights to join me. As for the compensation, I deliberately drew out my words, catching the attention of every knight present. It will be double the family standard. Death benefits will also be doubled, and those who earn merit will receive priority for fiefs within the territory. Double the pay? Double the benefits? Fiefs. A wave of gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Many knights, especially those from humble backgrounds with no hope of promotion, felt their eyes light up. The lure of gold was real, yet after the brief stir, the training ground fell into a heavy, expectant silence. Gold is useless if you're dead. Following a notorious playboy to the wilderness was no different than jumping into a magical beast's maw. No one wanted to gamble with their lives. Captain Roland stood by, observing the scene with a calm, unreadable expression, neither encouraging nor stopping the proceedings. This was expected. My smile remained unchanged. Ignoring the silent knights, I walked straight to the weapon rack. Amidst the crowd's confusion, I took down a well-maintained longbow and a quiver full of arrows. I weighed the bow and brushed my fingers over the string, frowning slightly. Young Master Eli, what are you doing? A nearby knight asked, puzzled. I didn't answer, walking to the archery range at the far end. The knights exchanged bewildered glances. Did this playboy really think he could impress them with his archery? It was laughable. I stood at the line. I took a breath, notched an arrow, and drew the string. My standard posture caught Captain Roland's attention. But as I pulled the bow to a full draw, my arm trembled. My current strength was clearly insufficient. Whoosh! The arrow flew crookedly, landing limply in the dirt several meters short of the target. Uft! Ha ha! The training ground erupted in laughter. I smiled helplessly, rubbing my sore arm. TCH. This bow needs improvement. The knights were stunned. I ignored them, raised the bow again, and my gaze sharpened like a hawk's. All distractions vanished. Captain Roland's surprise deepened. Whoosh! The second arrow flew. Fast, steady, and accurate. Thud! It struck the edge of the target. The laughter died instantly, replaced by gasps of shock. Without pause, I moved with mechanical fluidity, drawing and firing with a strange, rhythmic grace. Whoosh! Thud! The third arrow hit closer. Whoosh! Thud! The fourth hit the red circle. Whoosh! Thud! The fifth pierced the bullseye. Whoosh! Thud! The sixth arrow struck the bullseye, its fletching still vibrating. The training ground fell dead silent. That focus, that precision. Was this really the same playboy? I turned, hiding my trembling right hand behind my back. I wore my usual easygoing smile, as if those 6 shots were nothing. Now, back to business. My gaze swept over the knights, who no longer looked at me with contempt. 10 spots. Voluntary only. If I call your name and you wish to join, step forward. I spoke directly. Ika. A lean young knight hesitated, then gritted his teeth and stepped forward, hungry for a chance to change his life. Orlando, a blond youth in the back, looked up, his eyes filled with disbelief. I looked at him with a knowing gaze. I've heard about your mother. Join me, and the pay will be enough for her medicine and a better physician. Orlando's eyes reddened. He didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, his voice choked with emotion. I will serve you, Lord Eli. As the atmosphere shifted, a booming voice rang out. Count Eli in. Boar is willing to follow Lord Eli. A massive, bald man stepped out of the crowd and struck his chest plate with a heavy fist. My lord, I respected your late mother. She was a kind woman, and for that, I trust her son. Boar's words were like a boulder hitting a calm lake. He held significant prestige among the knights. Inspired by him, others stepped forward. In moments, 10 knights stood before me, heads held high. Though their strength varied, their eyes burned with hope. I looked at the 10 faces before me. I declared, good. I, Eli Black, will remember this. I promise you won't regret today. The western border will be where we make our mark. Captain Roland watched from the side, his face etched with confusion. Was this really Eli? Then, I did something that left everyone stunned. I unhooked a heavy coin purse and handed each of the 10 knights 5 gleaming gold coins. This, my lord, it's too much. Orlando's hands shook. It was nearly 2 years' worth of his salary. Even Boar was stunned. Take it, I said firmly. This is your settlement fee. We depart in 2 days at dawn. Understood. Understood, my lord, the 10 knights shouted in unison, clutching the gold. The weight of the gold and my trust had won them over completely. As the knights left, I rubbed my temples, only to be interrupted by a wailing voice approaching rapidly. Young master, my young master. A scrawny servant in livery scrambled toward the training ground. It was Esther, my personal attendant. Esther rushed to me, threw himself at my legs, and began sobbing hysterically. Young master. Boo-hoo, where did you go? I searched the whole castle. How could you agree to go to that hellhole? The western border. Is that a place for humans? You're killing me. If you die, how will I live? Your mother in heaven wouldn't rest in peace. My temple throbbed. I tried to shake the man off, but failed. I took a breath and kicked him away. Ouch! Esther flew, rolled twice, and landed in the dust. The sobbing stopped. He looked up, bewildered. I stood over him, face dark. Are you done howling? If you are, get up and get to work. Esther scrambled up, tears still streaming down her face, though she stifled her sobs. Why, young master? Listen, Esther, I said sternly. I have no time for your wailing. You have immediate tasks to complete. First, go to the Sweetheart Bakery in the East District and buy 3 boxes of their best almond crisps. They must be fresh. Second, go to the Mole Alley Black Market, find a vendor nicknamed Lame Tom, and buy that map of Orlando from him. Third, Get me the highest quality healing potions. Do you understand? My rapid-fire orders left Esther stunned, his sobbing forgotten. You understood, young master. Esther snapped to attention, tears still staining his cheeks. His expression shifted to one of shock and newfound purpose. I handed him a small purse of coins. Money? But young master, you never pay for things, Esther stammered. Hurry. If you fail, you'll be feeding the magical beasts in the wilderness with me. Yes, I guarantee the mission will be completed. Esther swallowed his tears, energized. Clutching the purse, he bolted away, moving faster than he had when he arrived. Watching Esther disappear, I finally exhaled. I rubbed my sore arm, felt the remaining gold in my pocket, and looked toward the castle gates. The information system's newcomer gift was being cashed in piece by piece. The 10 knights, though just a start, had begun to coalesce into a loyal force. Young master, I have what you requested. By dusk, Esther returned with the items. I nodded, taking the almond crisps. I hadn't expected the old butler to have such a sweet tooth. Well done, my loyal Esther. Go rest. I patted his shoulder and left. Esther watched me go, feeling a strange sense of distance. Since the young master never used to pay for goods, my behavior was puzzling. He headed straight for the office of the butler, Sebastian. He knocked on the heavy oak door bearing the raven crest. Sebastian's signature voice replied, "Enter." The room smelled of parchment. The office was cold and austere. Sebastian sat behind a massive mahogany desk. "Young Master Eli," Sebastian said with formal detachment. "How can I help you?" "Mr. Sebastian." I offered a harmless smile, placing the 3 boxes of almond crisps on the desk. "Regarding the 500 gold coins promised by Mother, I assume I need your authorization to process the funds?" I didn't want to waste your time. Sebastian's gaze flickered to the sweetheart boxes. His rigid expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Indeed, young master. Marquis Leon Black has already given the order." He set down his quill and retrieved a pre-prepared financial voucher for 500 gold coins. As I reached for it, Sebastian kept his fingers pressed firmly on the paper. I pulled it away with effort. Sebastian peered at me through his gold-rimmed glasses. "Young Master Eli," Sebastian said, his voice slow and deliberate. "Developing the wilderness is no child's play." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "2 things may be of use to you." I listened intently. "First," Sebastian began, "the raven you keep follows our family tradition. Every member receives one upon adulthood. They are fed with your blood and share a mental bond. It can transmit information, warn of danger, and briefly share its vision." He hesitated, "Though it may not be as fierce as you might hope." My eyes lit up. The system hadn't mentioned this. "Second, you need more than just knights and craftsmen. You need basic labor. Farmers, laborers, even refugees. You must recruit them yourself. And, regarding your situation, Marquis Leon Black is busy with capital affairs, so perhaps." Sebastian left the thought hanging. I offered a sincere expression of gratitude. "Thank you for the advice, Mr. Sebastian. I will use the gold wisely, keep the raven, and as for my father," I smirked knowingly, "I will find a way to handle it." I pushed the almond crisps forward. "Royce told me you enjoy these. I hope they are to your liking." Sebastian squinted, not looking at the snacks, but gave a slight nod, accepting the bribe and the farewell. "May the spirits of the Black ancestors protect you, young Master Eli." I took the voucher and left the orderly office. Outside, Esther was lurking. "Young master, did you get it?" "Yes." I patted my pocket and gestured toward the door. "I have it. Why are you still here? Didn't I tell you to rest?" Esther grinned. "I was worried. That very elegant butler doesn't like you at all." "You're amazing." I nodded. "Everyone has a weakness." On the 3rd morning, as light touched the castle spires, I activated the blue system interface. "Daily intelligence, draw." A beam of light flashed. "Your mother is delighted by your departure." "Esther," I called out. The servant scrambled in like a frightened rabbit. "Why, young master?" "Tell everyone to gather at the gate. We leave in 15 minutes. "Yes, sir." Esther bolted. I pinned my family raven badge to my chest and approached a perch by the window. A pure black raven with dull, silly eyes sat there. This was my companion, Machio. "Hey, Machio." I touched my finger to the bird, which lazily nuzzled me. "Time to work. Let's see the real wilderness." The raven squawked and hopped onto my leather shoulder guard. 15 minutes later, the group assembled at the oak gate. To Blackstone Town. I mounted my horse. The town, a vassal territory, was only 2 hours away. Upon arrival, the bustling streets were filled with mercenaries, merchants, and refugees. Following the intelligence, I led my group to the northwest corner, the slave market. The air was thick with the sounds of whips, cages, and the desperate cries of the enslaved. I scanned the stalls until I spotted my target in a crowded corner. A dozen tall, muscular wolfkin with lupin ears were chained together in a massive iron cage. The leader, kneeling, was even taller than the rest, Wolfgang Frostclaw. Damn it, ungrateful beasts. A burly slaver whipped the cage, trying to break their spirit. Show your teeth again, and I'll knock them out one by one. Stop, a sharp voice rang out. I pushed through the crowd with Noland, Boar, and Ika, stopping before the cage. The slaver, Barlow, froze, his eyes narrowing as he sized up the armed group. The young man's noble attire was striking, but the black raven crest on my chest made Barlow's pupils contract. A member of the black family. This, young master? Barlow put away his whip, forcing a merchant's smile. Are you interested in these goods? I ignored him, locking eyes with Wolfgang in the cage. Esther, the ointment, I said calmly. Esther hurriedly retrieved the high-quality medicine I had procured and passed it through the cage bars. The wolfkin watched warily. Wolfgang stared at me, gauging my intent. Give it to them, I commanded. Wolfgang let out a low growl. A young wolfkin hesitantly took the ointment and began tending to his companions, especially Wolfgang. Barlow's eyes lit up. A buyer from the black family? These unruly, heavily wounded wolfkin were becoming a liability. You are truly kind, young master. Barlow fawned. These are rare wolfkin warriors, strong and enduring. Since you're from the black family, I'll give you a deal. 200 gold coins. How about it? I scoffed. 200. Do you take me for a fool? I gestured to the dying, scarred wolfkin. A bunch of dying troublemakers for 200 gold? 50 is generous. Barlow stiffened. They are only superficially injured. These are 13 bronze tier fighters. Bronze tier. I raised an eyebrow, pointing at Wolfgang. Aside from the leader, they are barely clinging to life. 50 gold. Take it, or I leave. Wait, young master. Barlow panicked. 150. 80. 120. I said 80, final offer. Behind me, Boar and Ika stepped forward, hands on their sword hilts, glaring at Barlow. Barlow broke into a cold sweat under the pressure. He looked at the imposing young master and his threatening knights. Considering the liability, he gritted his teeth. Fine. 80 gold. They're yours. The deal struck. Barlow produced a parchment scroll, a slave contract. It bore the names of all 13 wolfkin and a trace of their heart blood. Possession of this contract meant control over their lives. Here, young master. I took the contract and walked straight to Wolfgang, who was still glaring at me. The cage door was opened. Despicable human, Wolfgang rasped. Don't think you can make us serve you. Boar and Ika moved to protect me, but I waved them back. Ignoring the murderous intent, I stepped within a meter of Wolfgang, a distance where the wolfkin could easily kill me. People who want to die don't bother applying medicine, I said calmly. Wolfgang's pupils shrank. I leaned in. I whispered clearly. Your tribe was annihilated. Don't you want revenge? Wolfgang trembled, his ice-blue eyes filled with shock and rage. How could this human know the secret buried deep in his heart? I stood up, doing something that shocked everyone, including Brandon. I handed the slave contract, the very thing controlling their lives, to Wolfgang. Take it. Wolfgang was stunned. He looked at the parchment, then at my face. There was no mockery or charity in my eyes, only firm trust, or perhaps absolute confidence. Wolfgang took the paper with trembling hands. Now, I smiled faintly. Can you walk, demi-human? Wolfgang stood up, wincing at his wounds, his frame as straight as a spear. Don't underestimate the resilience of the wolfkin, he growled. I turned away. Follow. Wolfgang, clutching the contract, led his 13 warriors to follow the human. I exhaled, my palms slick with sweat. I had been terrified. The information system was powerful, but dealing with a desperate silver-rank wolfkin was a gamble. Fortunately, I had won. The group, now with the silent, imposing wolfkin, drew wary gazes in Blackrock Town. I headed straight for the Black family's grain and potion shops. At the grain shop, the manager nearly dropped his abacus. "Young Master Eli? What is this?" I surveyed the warehouse and the waiting carts. "I'm taking it all. And hitch up those carts." "What?" "Young Master, this is against the rules." "I must ask young Master Royce." "Rules?" I interrupted. "Who am I? Who runs this shop?" "The family caravan, under young Master Royce." "I already have his permission," I lied smoothly. "Follow my orders. Load them now. Can you afford to delay my expansion?" The manager, intimidated, complied. 123 gold coins, young master." "Money?" I asked. "Do I pay for my own family's goods?" I repeated the process at the potion shop, sweeping the shelves. Mounting my horse, I looked back at the castle one last time. Western border. Move out. The wheels crunched over the gravel, kicking up dust. My ragtag army crossed the border into the Western Kingdom. The atmosphere within the group shifted over the days. My Raven Scout provided occasional, blurry glimpses of the path ahead. More importantly, the daily free information acquisition became my greatest tool for navigation and survival. The system helped us avoid danger and find food, like wild rabbits and berries, improving our rations. Brandon, initially worried by my frequent, sudden route changes, grew silent. His concern turned into deep, growing suspicion. This young master's luck was supernatural. The knights' trust grew, and even the wolfkin lost much of their initial hostility. The knights now viewed me with genuine awe. The wolfkin, though still distant, no longer looked at the humans with pure hatred. One morning, a purple notification flashed. 20 kilometers ahead, at a Blackwater River tributary, a herd of 15 blood deer, including 3 fawns, is resting. Blood deer were legendary beasts. Their blood and antlers were worth their weight in gold. "Brandon," I called. "Change course. Northwest, to the Blackwater tributary. Full speed." Brandon hesitated, the warning about unknown risks dying on his lips. Seeing my unwavering certainty, Brandon swallowed his complaints about his bruised face and ordered the team to turn. Though confused, the knights and wolfkin followed me and Brandon without hesitation. After hours of forced marching, the team reached a sparse riverbank where a dozen blood deer grazed. The herd rested by the shallows, with 3 fawns playing nearby. I signaled Wolfgang, the silver-furred wolf king, who locked his icy blue gaze onto the prey. I ordered Wolfgang to flank the herd from upstream to block their escape, emphasizing the capture of the fawns. Wolfgang signaled his 13 warriors with sharp, guttural sounds, and they vanished into the shadows, moving stealthily toward the upper river. I led the knights in a slow, silent frontal advance. The encirclement was complete. By the time the deer sensed danger, it was too late. At my command, Wolfgang let out a thunderous howl, his silver rank aura erupting. Wolfkin surged from the bushes to cut off the retreat, while the knights charged forward. The battle was swift, defined by lance thrusts and flashing blades. The blood deer, lacking aggression, were quickly overwhelmed by the coordinated assault. 12 adults were killed, and the 3 fawns were captured and tethered. As the scent of blood filled the air, I directed the team. Knights were to collect the precious blood, deer blood and water skins, while the wolfkin butchered the carcasses for hides, tendons, and horns. I then declared that half the collected blood would be consumed by the participants immediately, with the rest preserved. The knights froze, stunned by my generosity. Blood deer blood was a legendary treasure, usually inaccessible to low-ranking soldiers. After a moment of silence, the knights erupted in cheers, shouting, "Long live Lord Eli!" They thanked me with fervent loyalty. The knights were flushed with excitement, their devotion absolute. The wolfkin, though not understanding the language, realized they were included when I gestured toward them. I confirmed that the wolfkin and Wolfgang were entitled to their share of the spoils. The wolfkin howled in excitement. The riverbank echoed with the cheers of men and the howls of wolves. The invisible barrier between the humans and demi-humans began to dissolve. I watched the scene with deep emotion. I had previously regretted the early contract with Wolfgang, fearing the wolfkin's silence and ferocity. Now, I saw that trust had bought cohesion. I led by example, downing my own bowl of blood first. The liquid was sweet and scorching, not bloody. A surge of pure energy exploded in my gut, fueling my battle chi and strengthening my body. My skin turned hot, and my face flushed crimson. I groaned as a wave of heat rushed to my head, leaving me lightheaded. Realizing the potency of the blood, I felt even more flustered. Nearby, Boar's bronze rank aura flared brilliantly. He had broken through to bronze high rank. The other knights also felt their strength and chi density increase significantly. The wolfkin were equally affected, their blood chi rising like smoke. Their muscles bulged, and their fur grew lustrous as their bodies reacted to the vitality. The younger warriors howled in primal ecstasy. Their cries echoed across the plains. The excitement became contagious, and even the knights joined in the roaring. The air was filled with a mix of human shouts and wolf howls. The riverbank became a scene of wild, tribal celebration. I watched, my mouth twitching at the spectacle. Fighting my own strange urges, I sternly ordered Brandon to silence the men and prepare to depart. Brandon complied, and the energized, high-spirited team resumed their journey west. The wheels rolled over dry, reddish, gravelly soil. The landscape shifted to arid shrubs and dry air. After 10 days, my team had reached the heart of the western border, accompanied by my raven, Machio. I gazed at the endless, heat-distorted horizon. I was struck by the sheer vastness of the Orlando Kingdom. I credited my information system for my smooth progress, using it to avoid bandits and locate hidden water sources, earning Brandon's total blind faith. My reputation for divine foresight was now cemented. I had also recently unlocked a rare piece of intelligence. Purple, deep within the Forgotten Rift, a hidden tomb belonging to Ironarm Balder of the ancient Free City-State Alliance. I noted the location, marking it as a future goal once I grew stronger. The system also confirmed that at least 3 other families from the Royal Territory and Eastern Territory had dispatched their own expansion teams. The expedition team is led by the second son of the Roman family from the Royal Territory, an illegitimate son of the Medici family, and the illegitimate daughter of Duke Russell from the Eastern Territory. As the sun set, painting the wilderness in golden-red hues, the team camped beneath a wind-sheltered sandstone cliff. A campfire crackled, stewing dried meat and drought-resistant tubers, filling the air with a mix of savory aromas and dust. The knights polished their gear and spoke in hushed tones. After the baptism of blood deer blood and 10 days of training, they carried a newfound sharpness and spirit. The wolfkin ate quietly nearby while Wolfgang rested. Inside the central tent, I sat cross-legged, sinking my consciousness inward. I channeled the Black family's raven breathing technique, circulating metallic black energy through my meridians. This potent energy seemed to reshape Lewis's very bloodline. I felt my blood flow accelerate and my meridians clear, as if undergoing a metamorphosis. I exhaled slowly, the heat within me settling. I had advanced to a high-ranking Black Iron Knight. Advancing 2 tiers in 10 days was rare. I suspected the blood deer blood was particularly effective for low-tier knights. In this world, a knight's power stems from internal energy, accessible only through specialized breathing techniques. The path is divided into 6 stages: Black Iron, Bronze, Silver, Golden, Titled, and Legendary. Upon reaching Golden Knight, battle chi can be projected externally. Feeling my surged power and sharpened senses, I gripped my fist in satisfaction. "Esther," I called. Esther entered immediately. "Young master, you called?" "Fetch Brandon." Soon, the veteran appeared, his former lethargy replaced by a steady, hardened demeanor. 10 days of travel had completely erased the numbness of age from the old soldier. "Sir, you summoned me?" "Brandon, how far are we from Thorn City, the capital of the western border?" Brandon leaned over the map on my table, studying it by candlelight. He traced a line on the map. "At our current pace, we will reach the outskirts of Thorn City in 5 days. I stroked my chin. Thorn City was the political and military hub of the West. All expansion knights must register there to receive their official expansion edict documents. Furthermore, arriving early meant better choices and greater benefits. "Understood. Tell everyone to pick up the pace tomorrow. Our target is Thorn City." Meanwhile, 1,000 miles away in Thorn City, the fortress, built of obsidian and scarred by war, felt heavy and exhausted under the sunset. Inside the Duke's fortress, a study was lit by a roaring fireplace. The desk of the Western Duke and Prime Minister, Federico Laroche, sat empty, as he was currently embroiled in political turmoil at the royal capital. Two men stood before it, Lucius Laroche, the Duke's younger brother managing civil affairs, and Marquis Marcus Hohenzollern, responsible for military defense. Marcus tapped a list of names on the desk in frustration. "Look at this trash," he growled. "The Roman family's drunkard? The Medici's sickly son? The Black family's famous playboy? And little girls? Is this how the nobles support the expansion edict?" Lucius stood with arms crossed, expressionless. He recalled the bloody summer. Queen Irene had been murdered, and Princess Lynn had vanished while fleeing. The blame fell on the royal territory nobles, sparking fury in the west. Federico had mobilized his vassals and the northern territory to march on the capital. The kingdom teetered on civil war until mediation and the threat of the city-state alliance forced a compromise. Federico became prime minister, stationed in the capital to protect Prince Aidan and investigate the truth. The West received compensation, but it was a hollow victory. The city-state alliance seized the moment, breaking the peace treaty and shattering the first line of defense at Storm City. The defense collapsed, resulting in heavy losses and the fall of fertile borderlands. The army retreated to the second line, clinging to fortresses. Lucius had implemented a brutal scorched earth policy, burning villages and crops to slow the enemy. The alliance eventually retreated due to supply issues. The land was left in ruins, much of it by his own hand. Fortunately, the Duke had evacuated many civilians beforehand. Now, the burden of reconstruction fell on Lucius. Expansion edict. Lucius muttered, looking at the list. "Brother, are you using these discarded trash to fill the buffer zone? To trade their lives for time to rebuild?" Marcus scoffed. "Miracles? You overestimate these pampered heirs. Even if they survive the journey, they aren't here to expand. I suspect the Duke just wants to weaken the other noble houses." Lucius sighed and swept the list aside like garbage. "Let them be. Let them fend for themselves. Marquis Marcus, our focus remains on rebuilding defenses and pacifying refugees. As for these expansion knights," a cold smirk touched his lips. "Let them experience what a real battlefield is like." After 10 days of relentless travel, my team finally arrived at the heart of the West. Thorn City appeared, its banners bearing the roaring golden lion fluttering in the wind. Finally here, I reined in my horse, eyeing the legendary fortress. The massive obsidian walls were scarred by years of war and weather. As they approached the gate, a shout shattered the air. The guards tensed instantly. Spears were leveled at the group, their tips glinting coldly. "Who goes there? Identify yourselves. Why are you bringing armed demi-humans into the city?" the captain demanded. I dismounted calmly, my face hardened by the journey. "Expansion Knight, Eli Black. I am here by the kingdom's expansion edict to register and receive my documents. These wolfkin are my legitimate followers and guards, not slaves or bandits." The captain frowned at the black raven crest. Upon confirmation, the guard's hostility only deepened. "A noble brat from the royal territory?" one sneered. "Couldn't enjoy life at home. So you came to our dump to make a name for yourself?" Or stepped forward, furious. Just as the tension reached a breaking point, heavy footsteps echoed from the gatehouse. "What is going on? Put your weapons down," a booming voice commanded. A rugged man strode out. He scanned the standoff, his brow furrowing as his gaze landed on me. The squad leader saluted immediately, reporting with rapid-fire urgency. "They claim to be expansion knights from the Black family of the royal territory, and they insist on entering the city with armed demi-humans." The guard captain interrupted, eyeing me. "Black family. Eli Black." "Indeed," I replied. The captain scrutinized me for a moment before relenting. "Fine. By Lord Lucius's orders. Any expansion knight with valid credentials is to be registered and granted entry immediately." The soldiers lowered their spears, clearing the path. I nodded. "My thanks, Captain." I rode through the cold, rust-scented tunnel of the city gate. I silently removed my Black family raven badge to keep a low profile. Boar, Ika, and Brandon followed, their knights trailing in silence. Wolfgang's wolf-like eyes swept over the hostile soldiers, and he let out a contemptuous snort before leading his kin forward. Entering Thorn City, I reined in my horse, my heart sinking at the sight. This was not the capital I had envisioned. The roads were wide but filled with cracked stones, makeshift repairs, and uncleaned refuse. Pedestrians looked gaunt and hollow-eyed, moving with hurried, anxious steps. Patrols in worn leather armor added to the oppressive atmosphere. I remained stoic. Given the war-torn state of the western border, maintaining any order was a feat. They reached the center, the La Roche Duke's castle, a massive, iron-gated fortress adorned with golden lion crests. I dismounted, handing my reins to Esther and signaling Brandon and Board to wait. I glanced at Wolfgang, who nodded in understanding. "Be careful, young master," Esther whispered. I smoothed my robes and walked toward the castle's beast-like maw. I underwent rigorous checks, identity verification, badge inspection, and the surrender of my sword. A stoic butler led me through cold, heavily guarded corridors to the heart of the castle. The butler opened a heavy oak door, and I stepped into a dim, spacious room occupied by 3 men. In the center sat a youth of about 14 or 15, trying to project a maturity beyond his years. He wore a tailored dark blue suit with a small golden lion pin. Seeing me, his blue eyes flickered with curiosity, and he offered a forced, polite smile. This was Constantine Laroche, son of the Duke and the current heir. Marquis Marcus sat to his left. To the right, standing before a large arched window with his back to the room, was a tall, desolate figure. "Eli Black," Marcus began, skipping pleasantries. "A handsome face. Unlike your father, the Black Raven of the North, you look like a standard noble boy." Constantine's smile faltered. He glanced nervously at Marcus before looking down. I smiled unfazed. "Asterisk, is that all? You haven't even scratched my defenses, asterisk. I am honored by your assessment, Marquis. My father's martial achievements are indeed beyond my reach." My calm admission caused Marcus to frown slightly. The Marquis pointed a calloused finger at a map on the desk. "Enough. Per the expansion edict and the Duke's orders, you may choose a plot of land no larger than a barony in the uncontrolled territory west of our current lines. Condensed into 538. Choose. Sign the contract, take the documents, and go pursue your ambitions." The map detailed mountains, rivers, ruins, and rare mineral deposits. I scanned it, my heart racing. 2 days ago, my system's pity draw had revealed a secret. Southwest of the western border, near Night Song Forest, 30 meters beneath the barren red soil, lies a small, high-grade mithril mine. Mithril. This metal was worth far more than its weight in gold, essential for top-tier gear. The Laroche family had built their power on a gold mine. I kept my expression carefully neutral as my finger traced the map. I settled on a gray-brown area in the southwest, marked as fertile but infested with magical beasts. "I choose this, Marquis." Marcus looked at the spot. "Here. Are you sure? That godforsaken corner? It's near Night Song Forest, full of wargs and beasts. Except for an old iron mine abandoned a decade ago, perhaps?" Constantine leaned in, curious. I remained calm. "I've studied the map. It's near the forest for timber and has a river tributary for water. The terrain is open, making it easy to defend. As for the iron mine, even the slag could be useful for basic tools." A logical argument. "You have an eye for things." Marcus grunted and reached for his quill to mark the map. Suddenly, the figure by the window moved. Lucius Laroche turned. His face was pale and handsome, his gray-blue eyes utterly devoid of emotion. No anger, no curiosity, just a deathly stillness. Lucius's gaze was not sharp, but it felt like it pierced through everything, scrutinizing me without a word. Just as I felt I might suffocate, Lucius smiled. I reflexively nodded, perhaps too vigorously. "Lord Lucius," I said. The air remained heavy until the silence was broken. "Knight Eli." A crisp voice cut through the tension. Constantine, the young duke, leaned forward, unable to contain his youthful curiosity. I exhaled, quickly shifting my focus to Constantine. "I heard every Black family member has a special raven companion. Are they different from normal crows? May I see yours?" "Ah, well." My brain raced. The family raven was a secret, so I improvised. "The difference?" "Certainly. The biggest difference is that our ravens have much firmer meat and taste better when roasted." I gestured with a you-know-how-it-is expression. Constantine burst into genuine, unrestrained laughter. The boys' laughter shattered the room's icy tension. Even the stone-faced Marquis Marcus couldn't help but twitch his mouth in suppressed amusement. Marcus's voice regained its usual cold rigidity. He set his pen down and picked up the heavy steel seal engraved with a roaring golden lion, the symbol of the Western Border's supreme authority. With a heavy thud, he stamped the red wax at the end of the document. "Take it." Marcus tossed the scroll to me. I caught it firmly and bowed, though my eyes shifted toward Lucius. "I have prepared a small gift for His Highness Constantine," I said, "and a token of sincerity, hoping for a mutually beneficial exchange with the Western Border." I lowered my posture, leaving the final decision to Lucius. Lucius nodded slightly, and the butler in the shadows silently withdrew. Soon, 2 servants brought in 2 sturdy wooden chests and placed them before me. All eyes focused on the chests. I opened the first one. Inside, nestled in hay, were 5 well-sealed leather skins. "What is this?" Constantine leaned in. I uncorked a skin, releasing a sweet, strange fragrance. "Blood, dear blood," I announced. "High quality. A rare find. Perfect for a young duke cultivating the knight's path. It helps stimulate blood energy, temper bones, and stabilize battle chi. Please accept this humble gift." As I offered the skin, Marquis Marcus's breathing hitched. Marcus was stunned that I would give away such a rare treasure. Young Constantine looked on with eager anticipation. I opened the second chest, revealing 5 identical, sealed skins. As for these, I looked at Lucius and Marcus. I wish to trade them. "Trade?" Marcus crossed his arms. "What do you want? Gold? Weapons?" I shook my head. "I need people. Slaves, knights, craftsmen. The more, the better." Marcus realized this boy was serious. "Do you know what the Western Border lacks most? People. We need them for defense and production. Your appetite is huge." Marcus pointed a finger. 50. 50 trained soldiers. That's my limit." 150, I countered. Marcus barked. "That's not how you haggle." 80, and only militia. Not one more. 100, I insisted. Lucius, who had been staring out the window, turned back. His voice was low but final. 100 soldiers, 30 craftsmen. Lucius paused. "And 5 black iron rank knights. A small favor for the first expansion knight to reach Thorn City and bring sincerity." I felt a surge of relief. Marcus sighed helplessly. "Very well, Sir Lucius," and began writing the transfer orders. I bowed deeply. The Black family will remember this generosity. Marcus tossed the stamped transfer orders to me. "Take them. Collect your people from the barracks and workshops. The 5 knights will report to you." I accepted the documents with gratitude. The ceremony wasn't over. The butler stepped forward. "Knight Eli, you must perform the symbolic oath of fealty to your liege." I narrowed my eyes briefly before composing myself. "Of course." I walked to the desk and knelt on one knee before Constantine. Young Constantine straightened up, mimicking his father's demeanor. He drew a decorative, ceremonial sword from its scabbard. Constantine gripped the sword with both hands, trying to keep it steady. He took a breath and spoke with youthful earnestness. "Eli Black, I, Constantine LaRoche, may you remain loyal to your oath, protect your lands, and bring glory to the western border of the Orlando Kingdom." He tapped my shoulders with the blade. "In the name of Orlando and the Lion Flag, in the name of LaRoche, I grant you the right of expansion." I stood. "Eli Black shall not fail this trust." Constantine sheathed the sword, looking relieved and proud of his adult task. I bowed to the 3 leaders and left. Outside in the cold corridor, I clutched the documents, a smile of ambition spreading across my face. The next day, at a dilapidated inn in Thorn City, I sat on my bed, focusing my mind to initiate the daily card draw. A blinding golden light flooded my vision. Golden information acquisition. The text burned into my mind. Princess Lynn Aurora is using the ancient alchemy item, 1,000 Faces, to disguise herself. Suffering from memory loss, she is currently posing as Ayla in the Thorn City East Market slave trade. Lynn Aurora? The missing princess? My scalp tingled. This wasn't just information. It was a massive political chip. "Esther, Boar, Ika, bring the men, follow me." Now, I bolted from the room. The East Market was a chaotic hive of activity. The expansion edict had sparked a frenzy of commerce. Merchants from across the kingdom crowded the muddy streets, selling everything from rusted tools to livestock. Noble sir, look at these steel hose. Fine linen. Only 5 silver coins. Hardwood wheels from the north. I pushed through the crowd with my elite knights, ignoring the merchants. I followed the system's coordinates toward the back of the market, where a high-walled enclosure held rows of cages filled with gaunt, terrified slaves. My heart hammered as I scanned the final row. I found her, a figure huddled in the corner of a cage filled with young female slaves. She wore the same filthy, tattered hemp rags as the other slaves, her hair a brittle, malnourished gray-white. Mud obscured her features, but the hair, the distinct white of the Orlando royal line, gave her away. Ika, or rather Linarora, a greasy, alcohol-reeking merchant stood nearby. Spotting me like a hyena scenting blood, the merchant scurried from a shack. Seeing the elite knights behind me, he rubbed his hands together with a sycophantic grin. My lord, you have an excellent eye. He gestured toward the white-haired girl, his expression turning lewd. Interested in this one? A rare find. She's thin, but look at that face. The potential is there. A little training, and she'll be perfect. She's still a virgin, guaranteed clean. For you, a special price, 5 gold coins. No, take her for 4. I suppressed the urge to kick the oily man, my gaze fixed solely on the girl in the cage. Sensing the intense stare, the girl shrank back, burying her head lower. Enough talk, I said calmly. I pointed to the entire area. I want every slave you have here. Name your price. The merchant's lewd smile froze. His jaw dropped, and he stopped breathing for a second. Ecstasy surged through him, making his fat body tremble. He pinched his own philtrum to keep from fainting. He had never seen such a wealthy client. My lord, you are truly generous, he stammered, dancing with excitement. I have 380. All strong laborers and young women, no dead weight. A bulk price. Just 220 gold coins. A fair deal, right? I remained expressionless. 180. The merchant's face crumpled into a mask of misery, beating his chest. My lord, that's barely the cost. Think of the food they eat. 200, I interrupted. 1 copper more, and I walk. Plenty of others are selling. The merchant's wailing stopped instantly. He calculated the profit. 200 gold was still a massive windfall. Clearing his entire inventory in one go was worth it. Deal. You're a decisive man. 200 gold. They're all yours. The merchant's demeanor shifted instantly. He handed over a stack of contracts. I ignored them, signaling Brandon to take charge, and walked to the girl's cage. At a nod from the merchant, the guard opened the door. You, I said, my voice softening. From today, you are my personal secretary, responsible for documents and errands. Understand. Isla looked up, her eyes filled with shock and disbelief beneath her gray hair. A secretary? Not bought for something else? She stared at me, unable to process the change. Or, get them clean clothes and food. Then take your men and move them to our camp. I didn't wait for her reply, turning to the bald warrior. Boar nodded and began the handover. I turned to the other vendors. Brandon, Ika, Esther. Keep buying. Target, 500 total. Focus on young, able-bodied men and women. The next half-day turned the Thorn City slave market into a frenzy. My lord, 20 strong laborers, fresh from the mines. Only 15 gold. 15? 10. Take it or leave it. 12, my lord, 12. Done. Look at these women. They can cook and clean. 8 gold for the lot. 5. Not a copper more. 6, please. Take it. I finally reached 500 slaves. It cost me an additional 70 gold. With 250 gold left, I rubbed my temples. Money flows like water. I missed the days in the royal territory where I didn't have to pay. The financial pain continued the next day. I, Esther, and Brandon dove into the chaotic but well-stocked pioneer market. Seeds, grain, medicine, nails, rope, hemp cloth, everything needed for a new settlement was on my shopping list. 50 bags of wheat, 100 of flour, 50 barrels of salted meat, 20 pounds each of styptic, insect repellent, and bitter root powder. Iron ingots, nails, hose, axes. Brandon checked the list against the supplies. When the last item was loaded, only 60 gold coins remained in the purse. I felt my heart bleed. I tossed a dozen coins to Boar, Ika, and the 10 knights following me. Good work, brothers. 1 gold each. Relax tonight, be back at dawn, and buy some meat for Wolfgang and the others. Long live the Lord, the knights cheered, delighted. Gold was the most effective consolation. I stopped Brandon from following and headed to the city outskirts to collect my soldiers and craftsmen. Why are you tagging along, old man? My lord, don't underestimate me. Keep up. Yes, my lord. By the third morning, a massive, complex caravan had assembled outside Thorn City's west gate. I took one last look at the black silhouette of Thorn City in the morning mist, inhaling the dusty air. I drew my sword, the blade flashing in the morning sun, pointing toward my own territory. Move out. Leaving the dust of Thorn City behind, my caravan took shape. 5 experienced bronze-tier black family knights each led 20 recruits from the west, forming 5 squads. These knights served as the backbone, ensuring orders reached the bottom. Leon managed the 30 craftsmen to prevent losses. 5 new Black Iron tier knights joined Bor and Ika as my personal guard. 500 slaves formed the bulk of the group, mostly young men with some women and children. I separated the genders, appointing clear-eyed slaves as overseers to maintain order. Large pots bubbled over fires, filling the air with the scent of porridge. Slaves lined up with wooden bowls, receiving white porridge and black bread under the watchful eyes of armed soldiers. The slaves ate with gratitude, the warmth of the meal a rare luxury. Brandon watched them eat, his brow furrowed. He leaned toward me. My lord, at this rate, our grain will run out too fast. I didn't look back. Brandon, a fed man won't rebel. Ika, eating nearby, nodded in agreement. Feeding them is the bottom line. Brandon sighed. Yes, my lord. But the rapidly depleting grain bags weighed heavily on him. I wasn't worried about the supplies. I just needed more people to survive the journey. Suddenly, a commotion broke out. A burly soldier dragged a boy of about 11 over. My lord, the soldier shouted, throwing the boy down. Caught a thief under the grain wagon. All eyes turned to them. The slave overseers paled, fearing collective punishment. I crouched before the trembling boy. Why steal? The boy couldn't speak, shaking his head, tears carving tracks through the dirt on his face. Wasn't your portion enough? I asked. The boy shook his head, whispering. It was enough, but I got hungry fast. They said, children, only get half. The soldier stiffened, arguing, my lord, why waste food on a slave brat? The saved grain. Enough, I interrupted. Hungry? When I'm hungry, I steal. When desperate, I rob. I patted the boy's messy hair. Let him go. If you're hungry, report to the overseers. The soldier froze, stunned. My lord, this violates regulations. Theft of rations warrants severe punishment or execution to set an example. I stood, scanning the silent slaves. My rules are simple. Work honestly, and you eat. Theft means my rules aren't clear enough. I turned to the soldier, softening my tone. Good work spotting this. Go to Esther and collect 5 silver coins as a reward. The soldier's reluctance vanished, replaced by shock and delight at the significant sum. Thank you, my lord. The boy was released, trembling with relief. I turned to an overseer. From now on, children aged 6 to 11 receive 70% of an adult ration. Those over 11 get full portions, I added. The overseer bowed obsequiously, praising my mercy. The boy scrambled back to the group, shouting, my lord, when I grow up, I'll be your warrior. The slaves chuckled warmly. Lynn Aurora watched me quietly, while the guards looked on with newfound pride. This lord was truly different. The brief respite was shattered by a sharp, guttural cry. And my lord. A small figure emerged from the bushes, a young wolfkin from Wolfgang's tribe, one of the few who spoke human. And my lord. Wolves. Many wolves. Coming from the west. Lord Wolfgang sent me to warn you. My relaxed expression vanished, my pupils constricting. Cursing my reliance on the system in this dangerous wasteland, I focused my mind on Machio, the raven perched on my shoulder. Go, scout. The raven took flight. I closed my eyes, sharing its vision. Beyond the low hills a mile west, dust rose. A tide of gray-yellow shapes surged toward them, hugging the ground. There were at least 70, the leaders massive with gleaming fangs. Where is Wolfgang? I snapped my eyes open. The wolfkin replied, hiding behind the ridge behind the pack. Good. Tell Wolfgang. Hold position. Once they engage us and fall into chaos, strike them from the rear. The wolfkin nodded and vanished. Brandon. Boar. My voice rang out, setting off a chain reaction. Brandon organized the 500 panicked slaves into a defensive circle behind the supply wagons. 40 spearmen formed an outer barrier to protect the women and craftsmen. All combatants, assemble. Boar roared. The remaining 60 recruits, 10 black family knights, 5 western border knights, and several armed craftsmen lined up outside the perimeter. I drew my bow and tossed my quiver to Lin. Follow me. My voice resonated with every soldier. Follow me. Kill them all. Use their hides for bedding and their meat to fill your bellies. Let them see who the real prey is. Roar. Boar bellowed, followed by Aika and the knights. Kill. 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 The recruits, fired up by me, roared in unison. The pack lunged. The lead giant wolf leaped toward the front line. Loose. I commanded. The archers fired. Arrows whistled through the air, striking the lead wolves. Spearmen hold. Boar roared, smashing a wolf with his warhammer. Guard, protect the flank. Aika drew her sword. She and the Black Iron Knights drove into the pack's flank like a wedge. Chaos erupted. My bow acted like a scythe. Every string vibration claimed a wolf. Arrow. I commanded. Lin, clutching the quiver, immediately handed me a shaft. I fired in one fluid motion. A ward mid-leap was pierced through the throat and collapsed. Lin watched my steady back, her eyes reflecting the flashes of my arrows. The battle was short. As the pack grew frantic against the human defense, AWO. A deafening howl erupted from behind. Wolfgang appeared like a silver-gray bolt of lightning. Leading 13 fierce wolfkin, he descended from the ridge, charging into the pack's vulnerable rear with swords provided by their lord. Caught in a pincer, the wolves panicked and fled. Pursue. Don't let them escape. Boar led the energized soldiers in a countercharge. The slaughter ended quickly, leaving 60 wolf carcasses on the plains. The humans lost 5 recruits, with a dozen wounded. The wolfkin suffered minor injuries, but no deaths. I sighed, watching the fallen being carried away and the wounded being bandaged. Clean the field, honor the dead, and tend to the wounded. Brandon, harvest the spoils. The soldiers obeyed in somber silence. I frowned, then took a breath to break the tension. Now, bring our heroes, Wolfgang and his brave wolfkin brothers, to the center. Under the soldiers' awestruck gazes, the wolfkin approached, still stained with blood. It was them, I declared. They spotted the pack, bought us time, and delivered the killing blow. I kicked a massive wolf carcass. This is meat. This is hide. This is tonight's stew. This meal is a gift from Wolfgang and his kin. Tell me, are they heroes? After a brief silence, yes. Heroes. Wolfkin brothers, well done. The soldiers cheered, followed by the slaves, who roared with the ecstasy of survival. Long live the Lord. We have meat. The cheers washed over the camp. Seeing the wolfkin stand tall and the people rejoicing, I finally exhaled. After days of travel, the path opened up, revealing a vast valley. The entire group erupted in cheers of exhaustion and joy. We're here. Look, a river and a forest. This is our land. After days of hardship and danger, the slaves smiled with genuine hope. Many knelt to kiss the barren but promising soil. The soldiers relaxed, laughing and patting each other's shoulders. I reined in my horse on a high ridge, gazing out. The scars of war remained. Charred stumps and collapsed ruins were everywhere. Yet, wild grass grew stubbornly through the rubble, reclaiming the land from the remnants of human activity. A clear river wound through the valley like a silver ribbon, nourishing the lush vegetation along its banks. In the distance, dark green forests stood like silent giants guarding the land. Despite its desolation, the site offered vital resources: water, timber, open terrain, and hidden potential. Filled with ambition, I inhaled the earthy air and drew my sword. The blade flashed in the midday sun as I pointed toward the valley. Here, my voice rang out, silencing the crowd. From this day forth, this is the Obsidian territory. We shall take root here. This is our foundation, our source of expansion, and your new home. Obsidian territory. Long live the Lord, the crowd roared. As the cheers subsided, I ordered, Brandon, organize the people to set up camp by the riverbank. Prioritize shelter for women and children. Leon, lead the craftsmen to secure a water source and build a supply channel. Bor, Ika, clear a space for a training ground. The soldiers must not slacken. Everyone else, grab your tools. Clear the brush and gather stone. I want the camp taking shape by nightfall. The command set the camp into motion. The team, already somewhat acclimated, began working under the knight's supervision. Slaves surged toward their assigned tasks like a broken dam. Strong men cleared weeds and rubble with hoes and axes. Women gathered branches and thatch to construct makeshift shelters. Under Leon and Esther's direction, craftsmen installed bamboo pipes for water. Others cleared space for a temporary forge and carpentry shed. The air filled with the sounds of labor, shouts, hammering, and flowing water. Amidst the dust, a crude but vibrant camp emerged on the red earth. Standing on a ridge, I surveyed the scene. The camp was only the beginning. As the new lord, I needed to assess the land to finalize my expansion plans. I mentally drafted the layout: manor, warehouse, barracks, housing, workshops, and fields. I weighed factors like defense, logistics, and mineral deposits. After 2 days of surveying, I returned to my tent to plan. My lord, a voice interrupted my thoughts. Scouts returned, reporting a settlement of 200 to 300 people near the forest edge. I grabbed my map as Lynn Aurora served the scouts hot water. The scouts, unaware of her true status, respectfully addressed her as my lady. Lynn blushed, but before she could clarify, Leon burst in, breathless with excitement. My lord, we found it. An abandoned iron mine less than 3 miles northwest. The entrance is collapsed, but the vein seems intact. A steady supply of iron meant the foundation for weapons and tools was secured. Suppressing my joy, I ordered, Brandon, take Leon to inspect the mine for safety. I then turned to the scouts. You, come with me to the settlement. They soon reached the site, a slum clinging to the edge of ruin. A dozen shacks made of mud and scrap would huddled together, leaking from every side. The area was littered with the charred foundations of long-destroyed homes. The inhabitants peered out, trembling like frightened rabbits. They were gaunt and ragged, their eyes filled with exhaustion and weariness. Seeing the armored knights, the people recoiled in terror. I frowned, the scene far more miserable than I had anticipated. I approached an elderly man leaning on a wooden staff. Old man, I said softly, what happened here? The elder trembled. Sand bandits. They raid for food and women. Magical beasts from the forest drag people away at night. We can barely survive. Where is the administrator? I asked. The old one ran away long ago, the man replied. Children hid in the shadows, their faces red from the cold. Their fearful eyes pained me. I took out some rations and knelt, offering them to the children. They hesitated, then snatched the food, devouring it in a panic. I thought of the noble pets in the capital fed on prime meat, and the absurdity of it struck me. Mounting my horse, I looked over the desperate land. The wind wailed through the ruins, mirroring the weight on my heart. Yet, a profound sense of responsibility rose within me. This land and these people were now mine. Their struggle was mine to bear and mine to change. My voice cut through the wind. All who are willing to work may follow me. I will provide dignity, food, and protection. In the name of Eli Black. The morning in the Obsidian territory began with the sounds of construction. After my daily system check, a purple glow appeared. Buck, Marquis Leon Black's elite guard, will arrive at the Black territory with 500 gold coins. 3 days earlier, at the royal capital's garrison office, Marquis Leon Black was bewildered by the Prime Minister's recent praise. I did nothing, he muttered, lacking political intuition. His captain hesitated before speaking. My lord, word is that your third son, Eli, has left to become an expansion knight. Leon thought of Livia and his own weakness regarding Eli's late mother. It was my indulgence, he realized. Aileen, go to the Black territory and tell my aunt. This ends now, he declared, his gaze hardening. Marquis Leon Black felt ashamed as he handed his ancestral sword, Cold Raven, to his guard, Buck. Take this to Eli, he commanded. Buck, sweating nervously, accepted the blade and departed for Eli's territory. Leon reflected on Eli's recent achievements and the solemnity with which his own father had once entrusted him with the sword. He suddenly called Buck back. Wait, perhaps he'd prefer gold instead. Upon hearing of an additional 500 gold coins, my mood brightened significantly. I smirked. While the intelligence report labeling me a profligate annoyed me, the gold was a welcome necessity. Come with me. I stepped out of my tent to survey the camp. A residential area was rapidly taking shape near the river, with slaves and soldiers working under the direction of craftsmen. Workers were busy nailing wooden walls, thatching roofs, and laying foundations for larger structures. I met with Brandon and an elderly slave named Old John. Old John, a former guild craftsman captured during war, had shrewd eyes and calloused hands. "My lord," John said, pointing to a rough sketch on animal hide. "Traditionally, the lord's castle is the heart of the territory and should be built first with stone for dignity and stability." I shook my head, pointing to other areas on the map. "The castle can wait. Our priority is defense and ensuring everyone, especially our labor force, has shelter. Stone is too slow to quarry and transport." I gestured to the wooden frames. "We use wood. It's fast and local. Follow the plan." I pointed to the drawings. "The riverside area is the safest. Build the core residential row houses there first. Single-story, simple structures with mud and straw insulated walls and thatched roofs. Divide each into independent units. Build collective dormitories near the workshop area for the new laborers. And a large warehouse. We cannot leave tools and grain exposed. As for my mansion, my tent is sufficient until everyone else is housed." Ika praised my kindness, and Old John, impressed, agreed to follow my orders immediately. I cut off Brandon's flattery to ask about the mine. "Leon the blacksmith is working there with 20 slaves, clearing and reinforcing the tunnels," Brandon reported. "Small-scale mining has begun, but we are short on skilled miners." I nodded. "Select 30 of the strongest laborers to assist Leon at the mine. Tell him to keep the slag and low-grade ore, and double the guard to 10 men on rotating shifts." Brandon left to execute the orders. I then turned my attention to the Night Song Forest, where Wolfgang and his wolfkin were preparing to hunt. "Wolfgang," I called out. The silver-furred wolfman approached. "The forest is dangerous. Use your senses to keep the team safe. Focus on meat, but prioritize survival." Wolfgang growled in acknowledgement. With a howl, the hunting party vanished into the dense tree line. Over the next few days, the Obsidian territory became a hive of activity. Under Old John's direction, wooden row houses sprouted everywhere. The best units were assigned to the 10 Black Family Knights and 5 Black Iron Rank Guards. Soldiers and craftsmen received neat, double-occupancy units, while promising laborers were given 4-person units. These laborers were being groomed for transition from slaves to freemen. Though communal, these units provided a sense of ownership and privacy. Near the workshops, massive barracks were erected. These housed the 500 slaves. Divided into 10-person sections, the conditions were simple. Yet, compared to the filth of Thorn City's cages, this was a sanctuary. However, news from the mine was mixed. Leon returned with samples, his face etched with worry. "The mine is clear, but the quality is poor. He placed dark, impurity-ridden, ore on a stump. The iron content is low, and there is too much black associated mineral. The resulting pig iron is brittle and weak. It's barely enough for farm tools, let alone weapons or armor." I frowned. I couldn't rely on this iron for my military needs, but I still had the mithril mine. I remained calm. "Use it for farm tools to prepare the fields. We will find another way for weapons. Keep mining and stockpiling." Despite the poor ore, the completion of the housing was a major milestone for the territory. To boost morale, I organized a grand bonfire celebration for all my subjects, slaves, settlers, and soldiers alike. I stood upon a high stone, my dark red cloak fluttering in the firelight. Lewis spoke to the crowd. "Today, we celebrate the completion of our first homes. These homes make this land your own, and you the true masters of Obsidian territory." The crowd stared, confused by the concept of being masters. "I will now reward the most diligent and loyal among you," I announced. I read a list of names. The slaves trembled, fearing punishment. as they had never known a lord to call them out for anything else. The bonfire illuminated the night sky. I declare, I shouted, these 47 people are no longer slaves. As of today, they are the first freemen of the Black Territory. The named individuals stood stunned, some weeping with disbelief and trembling at the sudden change in their fate. Some slaves erupted in ecstatic roars, rushing from the crowd to kiss the earth. Freedom, the word struck their souls like thunder. Cheers and tears mingled as 47 slaves were guided to the Freeman Zone, where wooden identity tags awaited them. They stared at their tags, faces dazed with disbelief, as if still dreaming. Those not chosen were consumed by profound loss and regret. They watched their peers with envy, jealousy, and deep remorse. They regretted their past laziness and lack of effort. A heavy, bitter air hung over the slave quarters. I observed this and spoke again. Those who didn't gain freedom today, do not despair. At the end of every month, new freeman slots will be awarded based on labor, loyalty, and contributions to the territory. Work hard, and you will have the chance to become a freeman and even own your own land. This promise acted like oil on a dying fire, replacing the slave's regret with a renewed spark of hope. My lord, keep your word. I wave my arm. Eat. Tonight, everyone, celebrate to your heart's content. The roar of "Long live the Lord, long live Obsidian Territory" was deafening. I watched moved. I disliked slavery, but I lacked the resources to abolish it entirely for now. In this harsh environment, the difference between slaves and freemen was minimal, as all harvests were centrally distributed. Creating two classes simply provided an upward trajectory to incentivize productivity. Soldiers and knights enjoyed a feast, plus rewards of fur boots, bracers, and vests. For soldiers wearing rags, new boots were a dream come true. Wolfgang and his group were busy settling into their new homes in the forest. Amidst the revelry, several travel-worn warhorses stopped outside the crude wooden gate. The riders wore the black and red leather armor of the Black Raven Knights. It was Buck, Marquis Leon Black's trusted aide. Buck and his men stared at the celebration in shock. Checking the Black Raven flag and his map coordinates, Buck was bewildered. He dismounted and approached the gate. The guards, though tempted by the party, stood their ground and blocked the newcomers. Buck presented the Black family crest and the Marquis token. Buck, Vice Commander of the Black Raven Knights. By order of the Marquis, I seek an audience with young Master Eli Black. Recognizing the crest, the guard straightened up. Please wait, sir. A soldier sprinted toward the central tent to report. Soon, Buck's party was led through the boisterous crowd toward the quiet tent. The genuine smiles and vibrant atmosphere left the knights from the royal territory feeling disoriented. Was this truly the work of the exiled playboy? Buck entered the tent. The tent was sparse. A table, chairs, a cot, a raven, and a woman. I sat behind the table. Our eyes met, and Buck froze. The young man before him wore practical leather armor. My face weathered, my gaze sharp and steady. The images of the past and present merged in Buck's mind. Young Master, Buck hesitated. You have changed significantly. I smiled. Captain Buck, I remember you. A golden knight and my father's right hand. A long journey from the capital. What are my father's orders? Buck stepped forward. I bring 500 gold coins as expansion funding. I signaled Lynn Aurora to take the purse. Thank him for me. I handed Buck 2 sealed letters. One for my father. The other, I paused, deliver personally to Royce. Buck accepted them solemnly. Yes, young master. I stood up, looking relaxed. The party is in full swing. You've had a long ride. Go enjoy the hospitality of the Black Territory. Thank you, young master. The tent fell silent, save for the crackling fire and distant cheers. My smile faded as I exhaled, leaning back in my chair. Lynn Aurora, noticing my fatigue, gathered her courage and stepped behind me. As her cool fingers touched my skin, I stiffened, then relaxed. With my eyes closed, I felt her clumsy but sincere massage, a faint smile touching my lips. Silence filled the tent, broken only by her gentle movements and our soft breathing. Eventually, Lynn Aurora voiced her long-held doubt. My lord, why did you choose me at the slave market? I was just an ordinary slave. I stiffened imperceptibly. The moment had come. I chose a roundabout path. Lynn Aurora, do you remember where you came from? Or how much of your past you recall? Her fingers stopped. I can't remember. It's like a long nightmare. I woke up in a remote village. An old couple saved me. They had lost their daughter, whose name was Lynn Aurora. Her voice softened. They took care of me. Those days were peaceful and happy. But there was always a voice in my head, urging me, go west, go west. I didn't know why, but it gave me no peace. I left the old couple to head west, but in the western border, I was captured by slavers, and then I met you. Her voice choked with emotion. She looked at me. My lord, the way you looked at me then, it was different. Do you know who I am? The air in the tent solidified. My internal struggle was a violent storm. To tell her the truth, that she was a princess burdened by blood feuds and political chaos, would be to cast a fledgling bird back into the abyss. Her amnesia was perhaps a blessing from the light god, shielding her from the darkness that would tear her apart. Perhaps this was a benevolent lie. I stood up abruptly, causing Lynn Aurora to step back in surprise. Under her bewildered gaze, I reached out and pulled her into a stiff, gentle embrace. I pressed my chin against her gray hair, firmly denying knowing the voice. My tone softened. I just fell in love with you at first sight. Your eyes are like a starry night. I only wanted to take you away. Feeling her stiffen, I tightened my grip. Forget that voice telling you to go west. We are at the westernmost point now. Stay here with me. You don't need to go anywhere else. My lord. Lynn Aurora's voice was muffled against my chest, filled with disbelief and emotion. The shock left her mind blank. Love at first sight? Staying with me? These words warmed her, bringing a sense of peace she had never known. Her long-strained nerves finally found a harbor. She hesitated, wanting to reveal her true face, but I stopped her. Don't. You are Lynn Aurora. That's all that matters. She looked up at my face. Firelight danced in my eyes, reflecting her tear-stained, blushing face. All her past anxieties and fears were momentarily soothed. She stopped thinking about the voice or her mask, wanting only to hold me. She buried her face in my chest and hugged me tightly. Outside, the festival roared. Inside, they embraced in the flickering light. All secrets and grievances were shut out of their small, warm world. Dawn light hit obsidian territory, dispelling the mist, though the atmosphere in the tent remained awkward. I sat at a wooden table, tapping my fingers on a map, my mind elsewhere. Lynn Aurora brought me herbal tea, her movements gentle. Their fingers brushed as I took the cup, and both pulled back instantly. The air grew heavy with the steam of the tea and their uneven breathing. Last night's embrace hung between them like a veil. Every interaction now felt charged. Brandon poked his head into the tent. Seeing Lynn Aurora's blush and their awkwardness, Brandon's eyebrows twitched. He understood immediately. He calculated that the Lord and this girl were clearly intimate. This was good for stability and succession. He remembered they had some precious deer blood in storage. He decided to treat her with more respect, though he kept his face neutral. Ahem, Brandon cleared his throat. My lord, you summoned me? I pointed to a high ground near the river on the map, the location for the lord's castle. What do you think? Brandon nodded. Excellent choice, my lord. It overlooks the camp and river, is defensible, and is away from the mines. Our territory is growing. We need a proper place for official business. It's vital for receiving envoys and maintaining our dignity. I agreed. A center of power was essential for order. Proceed with the construction plan. Keep it simple for now. We can upgrade later. Brandon agreed, but noted a more urgent issue: spring planting. We need seeds, oxen, tools, and more labor for mining and building. Also, we need a management system. We can't just rely on slave overseers. I pushed a heavy bag of 500 gold coins toward him. Brandon's eyes lit up. Take guards and go to Thorn City or the nearest trade hub. Buy seeds, tools, and oxen. Buy 300 more slaves, mostly young men. And, I lowered my voice, find purple spiral-patterned beans. They are drought-resistant and high-yield. Buy all you can find. Brandon worried about the territory's safety while he was gone, but I had a plan. I thought of Captain Buck, a gold-rank knight. A bold idea formed. Don't worry about security. Take 40 soldiers. I have arrangements for the rest. Brandon, sensing I was up to something, took the money and left. I added one last instruction. Conduct a census, names, ages, skills. We might find more talent like old John. Brandon stumbled, protesting. My lord, that's torture for an old man. Look at my hair. Let Esther or Lynn Aurora do it. I laughed, and Brandon hurried away. Brandon departed for Thorn City with his men. Lynn Aurora and Esther began the census. Esther carried the supplies while Lynn Aurora recorded the details. Soldiers struggled to keep the slaves in line. I walked toward the tent where Buck and his men were resting. They were preparing to return to the royal capital. Buck stood to salute, sensing trouble. My lord, did you rest well? I received a secret report from my father. I smiled. He wants you to stay and assist me. You aren't returning to the capital. Buck and his knights were stunned. But the Marquis expects us. Buck protested. I waved it off, claiming I'd send a raven. Buck realized with amusement that I was forcibly detaining them, a stark contrast to the upright Marquis. I resembled Gordon Black, the Marquis's late brother and the legendary Black Wind Knight, whose feats defined the Black family's prestige. 10 days. You and your men will join my personal guard under my direct command to handle territory security and training. Seeing the resemblance to the past, Buck's eyes softened. He saluted. As you command, Eli Black. Esther and Lynn Aurora placed a thick, crudely bound census ledger on my desk after days of work. I flipped through the pages, reviewing the basic information of my subjects recorded in charcoal. It detailed names, ages, origins, and most importantly, their special skills. While most were labeled farmer or no special skills, a few talents stood out. 6 fishermen from the Eastern Territory. I called Esther, ordering him to have them build a small pier for food production, promising freeman status as a reward. I also sent 3 hunters, including a former leader, to join Wolfgang's team. One name caught my eye. Hardy, 57. Former agricultural official. I was energized. This was the expert I needed for irrigation and harvests. I summoned Hardy, who confirmed his past as an official in Storm City before the war turned him into a slave. I immediately appointed him as the territory's agricultural official. With talent distribution underway, I headed to the training grounds. With a gold-tier knight like Buck in charge, the results were bound to be significant. A sharp, murderous aura emanated from the makeshift training field. Buck stood in the center, unarmed but radiating a pressure that made the 60 recruits tremble. Under the supervision of Boar and Ika, he demanded perfection in every thrust and block. Eyes, look at your enemy. Imagine them tearing your throat out. Buck's voice was cold and heavy, pressing down on the soldiers like iron. As a recruit stumbled, Buck flicked his fingers, releasing a sharp, golden beam of battle chi. The beam traveled 10 meters, striking the recruit's spearhead with pinpoint accuracy. A piercing metallic clang rang out. The force sent the spear flying, vibrating deep into the ground. The recruit collapsed, pale and terrified. I watched, stunned by the display of long-range battle chi. Seeing such effortless control of gold-tier power was far more shocking than just knowing it existed. A burning desire for strength ignited in my chest. This was the control absolute power provided. I recalled the system's recent intelligence report. 23 kilometers away, in an abandoned mine, the Vulture gang of 60 bandits is led by a silver mid-rank knight, Vulture. I formed a plan. Instead of waiting for trouble, I would strike first to loot supplies and train my men. With Buck present, it was the perfect opportunity. That night, I showed Buck the map. Captain Buck, there is a bandit den 20 miles northwest. They are about 60 strong, led by a silver mid-rank. Wipe them out, Buck asked. He glanced at the map. A mere group of bandits. I will handle it. Good, I replied. Do you need Boar and Ika's soldiers? Buck smirked. Soldiers? Unnecessary. 6 men, including myself, are enough. The Black Raven Knights will return by nightfall tomorrow. His tone was calm and utterly confident. I was impressed by this display of gold-tier arrogance. It was efficient and saved resources. I entrust this to you, Captain. Stay safe. Understood, young master, Buck replied, then smiled. Also, your aura is much denser than when you left the capital. May I examine it? I agreed, standing to perform the raven breathing technique. A metallic, black current flowed within me. Buck pressed 2 fingers to my wrist. After channeling his own chi into me, Buck pulled back, genuinely surprised. Black iron high tier. Solid foundation. The Marquis will be pleased. Buck knew I had only been black iron low tier recently. This progress was terrifying. He wondered if I had been hiding my true talent all along. I maintained my humility, attributing it to a lucky encounter in the wilderness. Buck's expression shifted, as if he had made a decision. Your foundation is solid. It is time to learn how to channel chi into your weapons. I also practiced the Black family's secret raven breathing technique. I was shocked, as this was meant only for family members. Buck recalled the Frost Wolf Rebellion 20 years ago. He had been a captain saved by my uncle, Gordon Black, who taught him the technique in exchange for a vow of loyalty. The Black Wind Knight who brought glory to our house died in the north. His eyes were filled with deep loyalty. So, you need not worry. I am the most suitable person to teach you. The Marquis knows of this. I felt a surge of warmth, realizing the depth of Buck's connection to my family. Captain, this is the best fate for a knight. Buck paused, then laughed. Yes. Teach me, Captain. I bowed. Buck had me pick up my bow, placing his hand over mine to guide me. A warm, powerful chi flowed into me, guiding my own raven battle chi along the proper meridians. I focused on channeling my energy into my bow and arrow, guided by Buck's low, precise instructions. The upcoming raid on the bandits felt like a trivial afterthought. In the pre-dawn darkness, figures silently prepared their gear at the edge of the Obsidian Territory camp. Buck and his 5 Black Raven Knights were clad in high-quality black light armor, their eyes cold and sharp. They moved with the silent, lethal efficiency of unsheathed blades. Young master, are you certain about this? Buck asked as I strapped my longbow to my back. Of course, I replied, mounting my horse with ease. It's a rare chance to see the Black Raven Knights in action. I grinned, patting the empty sacks on my saddle. Someone has to collect the loot and count the gold. Or, Ika, Orlando, you're coming too. The trio, eager to witness a gold-rank fighter, mounted their horses immediately. Buck nodded once, offering no further objection. He spurred his black horse forward, leading the charge with the other 5 knights following in perfect formation. I and my 10 men followed, our horses' hooves shattering the silence as we raced 30 miles toward the northwest. By dawn, an abandoned mine appeared on the horizon. The mine was carved into a barren, red mountain, its entrance dark and deep. Makeshift shelters and tents were visible, with thin trails of smoke rising into the air. Sentries dozed against the crumbling stone walls of the entrance. Enemy attack. A scream pierced the morning as a bandit spotted the approaching black-clad riders. The camp erupted into chaos, with disheveled bandits scrambling from their tents. They stumbled out, half-dressed and fumbling for weapons. A burly, bald man wielding a heavy battle-axe roared, trying to organize a defense. Grab your weapons. Archers, where are you? But it was too late. The Black Raven Knights didn't slow down. They accelerated, ignoring the pathetic volley of arrows fired by the disorganized bandits. A hum filled the air. Pale golden battle chi flared around Buck and his men, Buck's gold rank pressure crushing the bandits like a tidal wave. The frontline bandits turned pale, their legs buckling. Charge, Buck commanded. The 6 riders slammed into the formation. With simple, lethal strikes, their blades, enhanced by battle chi, tore through flesh and bone like knives through tofu. Blood sprayed as the bandit line was instantly shattered. Buck led the way, his steel sword glowing with a foot-long golden aura. Everything in his path, men, weapons, and shields, was cleaved in two, while his knights operated like precision-killing machines. They carved a path of carnage through the center, piercing the defense in a single pass. Demons, run, the survivors shrieked. The bandits' morale collapsed completely in the face of such overwhelming power. Survivors fled in terror, abandoning their posts. The bald leader swung his axe at the rearmost knight. The knight didn't even look back, blocking the strike with his kite shield. The impact sent sparks flying. The shield held firm, and the recoil left the bandit leader's arms numb and his hands bleeding. Mithril, the leader gasped. Noisy, Buck replied coldly. He hurled a spear of condensed energy that pinned the leader to the wall instantly. The leader's hand dropped, dead. The remaining bandits lost all will to fight. They scattered, desperate to hide in the mine or flee into the wilderness. Captain Buck, Leave some alive for questioning," I shouted, finally recovering from the shock of the slaughter. Buck signaled his men. The knights intercepted the fleeing sub-leaders, knocking them unconscious with their hilts. I drew my bow, my eyes sharp. My chi-infused arrows struck down the remaining bandits attempting to escape into the wild. The battle ended in minutes. 40 corpses littered the ground. Buck tossed a captive before me. Boar stepped forward, pinning the captive down with his sword at the man's throat. "Who are you? Where are you from?" I asked calmly. The captive, trembling, began to babble. "Mercy, we're the Vulture Gang. We used to be the city defense force of Falai." "Falai?" I frowned. "We were part of the City-State Alliance. We took the West last year, including Storm City." The captive spilled everything to save his life. "The main army retreated, but Falai was poor. Our leader, the one you killed, and a nobleman named Baron decided to stay. They took Lucerne City as our base, along with other remnants from smaller city-states. I don't know much else." "Lucerne City?" I noted the location. "How many of you are there? Is Baron there?" "Over 1,000. The captive replied. "Baron has 500 in Lucerne, trying to build a territory. The rest of us are scattered in small groups to scavenge supplies and watch the western border army." The captive trembled as he confessed that the raiders were actually an organized force of over 1,000 occupying Lucerne City. Seeing my dark expression, the man begged for mercy. I signaled Boar, who silenced the captive with a single stroke of his sword. I ordered the cleanup of the battlefield. Buck's men rounded up the terrified women and children from the mine depths. The loot included enough grain and dried meat to feed 100 people for over a month. They also recovered a bag of coins worth 200 gold, rusted weaponry, and, most importantly, over 100 refined iron ingots found in the mine. In the bandit leader's hut, I discovered a rolled-up parchment map inside a copper tube. The map was highly detailed, marking major towns, rivers, and the Free City-State Alliance. I secured the map and ordered the rescued women sent to Obsidian territory as potential settlers. The refined iron and supplies were loaded onto the bandits' carts, along with the rescued slaves. The group began their journey back to Obsidian territory with their spoils. Baron the Falai rebels, and the occupation of Lucerne City revealed a brewing storm beneath the surface. The rebel force in Lucerne was a massive threat far beyond Obsidian territory's current strength. Rash action would only destroy my hard-won foundation. Back in my tent, I immediately began drafting a report based on the intelligence. I clearly outlined the key points: Baron the Falai rebels, the occupation of Lucerne, and the enemy's strength. I sealed the letter with the Black Raven crest and summoned my servant, Esther. I ordered Esther to select 2 Western Border Knights from my personal guard. They were to ride immediately to Thorn City and deliver the letter to Marquis Marcus. I emphasized that it must be delivered personally to the Marquis or Lucius without delay. Esther departed, but my sense of urgency remained. The Western Border Army was focused on defensive stability and would not strike until fully recovered. I realized I was on my own, perhaps with the help of other expansion knights. 10 days passed, and the morning card draw arrived. Purple Intelligence. The Expansion Knight Registration Office in Thorn City is crowded. Dozens of nobles, including your old friend Clark Graham, high silver rank, have arrived. Clark Graham, from the Rose and Sword Graham family, triggered memories of my past life. I recalled our days in Orlandia, where we rode through the streets as reckless youths. We would gallop through crowds, laughing at the pedestrians who scrambled to avoid us. In the opera house, we whistled at performers. We poured wine on old nobles and slept through classes, infuriating our tutors. We once broke into a count's estate to steal golden apples, only to be chased by dogs into the moat, becoming the capital's biggest joke. The twin stars of the royal territory were legendary for their antics. I smiled, remembering our lawless reputation. I wondered why Clark was here, exile or adventure. I considered recruiting the High Silver Knight. Shaking off the memories, I inspected the progress of the fortress. The foundation on the high ground was already laid with sturdy, polished stone. The central Great Hall was nearly complete, designed for functionality. Though still rough, with bare stone walls and dirt floors, it was structurally sound. Large pillars supported the roof, and wide windows provided ample light. A heavy wooden table and chairs gave the room an air of authority. I stood in the hall, envisioning my future council. I planned to include Brandon, my stewards, representatives of the Freeman, Old John, Hardy, Leon, Esther, Boar, and the Wolfkin Wolfgang. I would lead as Lord Eli Black. Meanwhile, Leon's team had located the mithril mine in a hidden gorge near Nightsong Forest. However, mining was difficult due to the hard, energy-infused rock. It required specialized tools, detection technology, and experts to prevent magical disasters. They were currently helpless, so I kept the discovery secret. I had previously sent 3 letters to my father via Buck. The letter to my father emphasized the discovery of a vital, rare mineral deposit. I requested top craftsmen, scholars, and managers, insisting on my own command. I offered a share of profits while retaining control over the mining operations. I also wrote to my second brother, Royce, to establish a trade route from the Royal Territory to the Black Territory. This would solve the supply and export issues. Outside, Buck was training the soldiers, including Boar and Ika, with brutal efficiency. Having a gold-tier knight as an instructor was a rare opportunity for them. The soldiers were exhausted but motivated. The training horn sounded. Buck dismissed the men and headed toward my tent. They were packed and ready to leave. I met them outside. Buck explained they had to return to the capital to report to the Marquis. The 5 knights saluted, showing their respect for me. I smiled. Give my regards to my father. We may meet again soon. Buck offered a wry smile. If that is the Marquis's order, I shall comply. He understood my hint about future support. Buck looked at the growing settlement and the improved morale of the men. He noted the change from their initial state of numbness. I will report the true situation of the Black Territory to the Marquis. He will be pleased to see your growth, Buck added. Then, his tone shifted. Though I fear your mother, Lady Livia, will be far less pleased to hear the news. I nodded, acknowledging Buck's warning. I understand. I offered a farewell banquet, but Buck declined. Buck refused firmly, mounting his horse with practiced ease. His 5 knights followed suit, and with a sharp command, the 6 black horses bolted forward. They galloped toward the royal capital, vanishing into the horizon in a cloud of dust. Looking back toward the Black Territory, Buck couldn't deny my unique charisma. Perhaps we will meet again. Buck laughed, leaving his confused knights to wonder if their captain had lost his mind. Meanwhile, Thorn City, the capital of the West, was swarming with activity. The street housing the Expansion Knight Registry was gridlocked with carriages and young nobles. At the Pioneer Market, Brandon struggled to maneuver his supply wagons through the crowd. He scowled at a greasy merchant, furious that wheat prices had doubled to 2 gold coins. The merchant gestured to the bustling crowd, feigning helplessness. Supply and demand, old man. Every noble is buying to clear land. This is a fair price for such a large order. Brandon seethed, calling the merchant black-hearted. Prices for tools, livestock, and supplies had surged by 30% across the market. The merchant's eyes gleamed with greed, viewing the pioneers as easy prey. Greedy hyenas, Brandon muttered. Remembering my orders, especially the search for the rare purple spiral-patterned bean seeds, he pressed on. He navigated the stalls, haggling relentlessly until his throat was dry. 13 gold. Not a copper more, or I'm taking my business to the Kano firm. 4 gold for the oxen, or I'll buy directly from the farmers. He demanded 50 bundles of high-quality hemp rope as a sweetener for his tool purchase, acting like a seasoned hunter. Despite the frustration and inflated costs, he secured the necessary supplies. Seeds, iron tools, and plow oxen were finally acquired. He also recruited 300 able-bodied slaves. However, the purple spiral-patterned bean seeds remained elusive. His large, organized procurement drew the attention of other pioneers. His well-equipped guard contingent stood out in the chaotic market. Is that the Black family crest from the Royal Territory? Eli Black, the bastard son? He's still alive and has money. In a nearby tavern, Clark Graham, a flamboyant young noble, lounged with his knights, bored by the lack of entertainment in the ruined city. This place is a dump, Clark complained, swirling his ale. I came here for fun, not to pioneer. Suddenly, he spotted the black raven crest on the guards' uniforms. Clark's eyes lit up with sudden interest. Abandoning his boredom, he paid his tab and rushed toward Brandon. Brandon was busy loading the last of the supplies. Hey, old man. Busy. Brandon recognized the Graham family crest, a golden rose entwined with a sword, and grew cautious. Who are you, young master? Brandon asked respectfully. Clark Graham. Clark performed an exaggerated bow and clapped Brandon on the shoulder. Don't play coy. Where's Eli? Is he hiding somewhere plotting mischief? Take me to him. This place is deathly dull. Brandon maintained his composure. Lord Eli is currently at his territory, the Obsidian Territory. He's actually a lord now? Tell me, what's he up to? Any treasure? Brandon, overwhelmed by the barrage of questions, remained patient. He gave a simplified account of my settlement, the Wolfkin, and their survival. Clark was enthralled. This sounded like a real adventure. It was exactly the life he craved. Brilliant. Take me with you to the Black Territory, right now. Seeing the excited noble and his weary knights, Brandon sighed in resignation. As you wish, Master Graham. Follow the caravan. At the Duke's fortress, Marquis Marcus read an urgent letter from me with a grave expression. Sir Lucius, Marcus began. Eli Black reports that the raiders harassing his land are actually the former City-State Alliance's defense force from Falai, led by Baron Grum, numbering over 1,000. 1,000. Marcus nodded. 500 elites occupy Lucerne City as a base. The rest are raiding and monitoring our western border army. Marcus sighed with frustration. The intelligence is reliable. Lucius turned, his pale face expressionless. They are still ravaging the west. His voice was a mere whisper. Marcus noted the pain in Lucius's eyes. Eli requests that the western border army intervene to eliminate the threat. Lucius closed his eyes, his chest heaving. Seconds later, he regained his cold, weary composure. No, my brother's orders are to hold the line and conserve strength until he returns. Marcus placed the letter on the desk. Lucius ignored it. Marcus turned to the map of the west, pointing at the scattered pioneer settlements. Look at these pioneers, Sir Lucius. They are nothing but a disorganized rabble. The second son of the Hark family who registered yesterday was as fat as a beer barrel. He was so terrified by my armor that his legs turned to jelly, and he couldn't even speak a coherent sentence. And that distant nephew of the Kentuck family? An even bigger idiot. He closed his eyes and pointed to a piece of land near the death swamp, claiming it had unique scenery. I think he's just tired of living. Cowards who wet their pants, fools with wild fantasies, they are everywhere. Marcus grew angrier as he spoke, his thick finger nearly poking a hole through the map. However, his tone shifted. Though, there are a few who are barely worth looking at. His finger pointed to the location of the Obsidian Territory, that Eli from the Black family. Although his reputation was rotten to the core before, this time, he's actually interesting. Next, his finger moved to an area near the northern defense line. The Duke of the East's illegitimate daughter, Camilla Russell. TSK, the little girl has eyes like knives. She chose a godforsaken, tough nut of a territory right next to those restless barbarians in the north. She's got some guts, I'll give her that. Then, he pointed to a spot deep in the south, near the Night Song Forest. The Duke of the South's second son, Sabuta Medici. A quiet one, but he brought quite a lot of people with him. He chose a territory deep in the forest. I don't know what he's planning, but it feels not simple. Finally, he pointed to a relatively flat area northwest of Thorn City. Carl of the Bourbon family in the south. This kid is pragmatic. He chose a good spot, and he's steady. He brought plenty of craftsmen and farmers. It looks like he really intends to farm, relying on them. Perhaps they might actually stir up some movement on this wasteland and help us shoulder some of the pressure. Marcus's complaining sounded more like talking to himself. Beside him, Lucius finally moved. He slowly reached out and picked up the secret letter from the Obsidian Territory on the table. The scorched earth of the West today is all my doing. Marcus fell silent. He knew that to hold the line, Lucius had personally ordered the land in front of the second defense line, land belonging to the people of the West, to be razed to the ground. Since then, he had lived in guilt, becoming increasingly taciturn. Sir, it was the only choice. Watching Lucius's figure, Marcus couldn't help but think of the distant Duke Federico. It was the two brothers who upheld the prestige of the West. But now, the eyes of the two lions of the LaRoche family in the West seemed to be covered in a deep, blood-red hue. Marcus always felt there was a pair of giant hands behind the scenes, constantly stirring up the relationships between the royal territory, the North, and the West. The Eastern Territory and the Southern Territory had long since become sworn enemies over interests in the sea and shipping lanes. The entire kingdom seemed to have become a powder keg, missing only a fuse to shatter this eerie balance. LaRoche, blood for blood, tooth for tooth. Lucius's calm voice interrupted Marcus's thoughts. Right back to him. If he can retake Lucerne City, I will grant him the title of Baron. Beside the rough log table in the council chamber, Lynn Aurora was trying hard to keep her voice steady and professional. My lord, Lord Noland has sent word ahead regarding their procurement. 50 bags of wheat seeds, 20 bags of bean seeds, various vegetable seeds, 100 iron hoes, 30 iron plowshares, 15 pairs of plow oxen, a total expenditure of 347 gold coins. Additionally, 300 new slaves were purchased, all young and able-bodied men, costing 193 gold coins. The territory's current gold reserves, including what you previously set aside and the estimated value of the iron ore from the mine. The current treasury balance is 103 gold coins. After reporting the numbers, Lynn felt her cheeks burning intensely. She could clearly feel my gaze upon her. It carried a gentle smile, yet it seemed to hold an intangible heat. She dared not look up, but the tips of her ears were honestly stained with a faint red. I rested my chin on one hand, watching Lynn with a smile. My lord. Lynn snapped her head up, glaring at me in embarrassment. Her clear eyes made my heart skip a beat. Just as Lynn was about to burn up from embarrassment, the room's door was flung open, bringing in a cool morning breeze. Aji, the little wolfkin, rushed in, panting. My lord. Lord Wolfgang sent me. I'm here to report. We found a lot of wolf pups deep in the forest. Alive. The playfulness on my face vanished instantly. Wolf pups? How many? What about the mother wolves? 40-something. The mother wolves. Over a dozen of them have already been dealt with by Lord Wolfgang and his men. They were in a hidden valley about 5 miles northwest of the camp. Lord Wolfgang says these pups haven't tasted human blood yet, and they look fierce. There must be many good candidates for wargs among them. Aji spoke rapidly. Warg candidates. I stood up abruptly. The vision of a wolf cavalry exploded in my mind. Wolfkin warriors paired with wargs raised from pups, sharing a single mind. That would be the sharpest blade of the Black Territory's future. Let's go, lead the way. I didn't hesitate, grabbing the bow and quiver hanging on the back of my chair and rushing out. Before leaving, I didn't forget to remind Lynn. Lynn, the gold in the treasury is in your hands. Keep a close watch on it. Watching my tall, straight back disappear behind the door curtain, Lynn stomped her foot in a mix of anger and shyness. Deep in the forest, sunlight struggled to pierce through the dense canopy, casting dappled spots of light on the leaf-littered ground. In a relatively open clearing, the scene was somewhat strange. Over a dozen large mother wolf carcasses lay scattered about, their blood soaking into the fallen leaves beneath them. In the center of the clearing, dozens of furry wolf pups huddled together, emitting terrified whimpers and low growls. Most were only the size of puppies, with coats of various colors, gray, black, brown, and their wet eyes were filled with wild vigilance and fear. Not long after, Wolfgang's tall figure stood to the side. His thick fingers pinched a bit of residual pale green powder, the potent sedative Esther had found. Behind him, the Wolfkin warriors were carefully using the hemp ropes and coarse cloth they had brought. They wrapped the sleeping wolf pups one by one, moving as gently as possible to avoid waking them. Some of the more lively young Wolfkin warriors couldn't hide their excitement, looking over the fur balls they had wrapped up. My lord, seeing me approach quickly with my personal guards, Wolfgang bowed slightly, his voice low. My gaze swept across the scene, satisfaction flashing in my eyes. I asked directly, Wolfgang, how is it? You said there are some with good potential? Yes, my lord. Wolfgang pointed to a dozen fur balls, placed separately and wrapped extra thick. These ones, and those ones, have fierce eyes, solid bone structure, and quick reactions. They are natural-born werewolves. If raised well, in time, they will surely become excellent wargs. As for the rest, Although they don't meet the standard for war wolves, they will be excellent laborers for guarding the home or for hunting and scouting. Very good. A sharp light flickered in my eyes. Send all these pups to your new wolfkin camp. Wolfgang, you are fully responsible for their care and initial taming. If you don't have enough hands, pull from the hunting team, and I will also select experienced people from the territory to assist. I want to see them grow up healthy and become the strength of our black territory. As you command, my lord. Wolfgang replied in a deep voice, and the surrounding wolfkin warriors straightened their backs. By the way, I watched as the warriors carefully cradled the bundles in their arms. Some couldn't help but gently poke the soft bellies of the sleeping pups with their fingers. These little ones will be your partners, even your family, from now on. Whoever cares for them and tames them will be their master. Upon hearing this, the young wolfkin warriors' eyes lit up instantly, and their gaze toward the fur balls in their arms became even more fervent. The human members of the hunting team watched this scene, which was both heartwarming and strange. They also helped wrap the remaining pups, carrying them on their shoulders or in their arms. For a moment, the lingering bloodlust and solemnity were diluted by these sleeping little beasts. I watched the busy scene, a weight lifting from my heart. I was just about to ask Wolfgang about the specific details of the hunt over the past few days, but I saw the wolfkin leader just standing there, his gaze passing heavily over the bundles being carried away. Deep within his ice-blue wolf pupils, an indescribable, complex emotion surged. Wolfgang. I keenly sensed his low mood and waved for the others to return to camp with the pups first. Once the others were far away and only the two of us and a few wolf carcasses remained in the clearing, Wolfgang finally spoke slowly. My lord, if you are asking about the recent hunting situation, the deer herds and wild boar herds on the periphery are indeed decreasing, and their tracks are becoming harder to follow. This was expected. With so many of us gathered and hunting, the beasts will naturally be alert and avoid us. If we want to maintain our meat supply, we must explore deeper into the heart of the Night Song Forest. He reported the work in a flat tone. I listened quietly. I will have someone set up a fishery. The depths of the forest, the risks are not small. You and the hunting team must be careful. I looked at Wolfgang, my tone shifting. But that's not all you wanted to say, is it? Wolfgang's burly body seemed to tense slightly. He was silent for a few seconds, then finally raised his eyes, his ice-blue pupils staring straight at me. He raised his hand, his rough fingers slowly brushing over the thick silver-gray fur on his cheek, then touched his erect wolf ears. My lord, do you see? This fur, these ears. To the wolf packs in the forest, we wolfkin are monsters that walk upright and steal prey. And in the eyes of humans, his gaze swept over the mother wolf's carcass on the ground. We are likewise aliens, beasts in human skin, goods in iron cages at the slave market. He took a deep breath, his chest heaving. Neither wolf, nor human. Wolfgang's voice was low and desperate, every word sounding as if it took all his strength. We have no home. We can only live on the edge, at the boundary between the two races. In the barren lands that humans disdain, we live like rats in a gutter, barely surviving, fighting for a tiny bit of space to exist, and then watching our kin die one by one and our tribes disappear one by one in endless conflicts, purges, and trafficking. His gaze turned again to the wolf pups being carried away. Just like them, having lost their mothers, they can only rely on the pity of monsters like us. How much better can their future be? He looked up, every word firm and decisive. Humans and demi-humans, different bloodlines, competing for survival, hatred already soaked into the marrow. Coexistence? Under the sun, it is never possible. The wind in the forest seemed to have stopped, leaving only Wolfgang's heavy words echoing. I listened quietly, my face showing no anger at being offended, nor any comfort. In those deep blue eyes, there was only a firmness as solid as iron, as if I were a boulder. Only when Wolfgang's last word fell did I slowly stand up. My movements were steady and powerful. My figure, though not exceptionally tall, appeared particularly upright under the dappled tree shadows. I will bear your hatred. My voice was not loud. I am your lord. I will personally hunt down the scum who wiped out the Frostclaw tribe and make them pay in blood. Wolfgang's body jolted, his ice-blue pupils contracting sharply. My gaze snapped back, landing on him with the weight of reality. As for coexistence, a sharp, ambitious curve slowly formed on my lips. If I say it's possible, then it is. The moment my words fell, I performed an action that made Wolfgang's blood almost freeze. I leaned in slightly, my movement strikingly overlapping with the scene from when we first met in front of the iron cage at the slave market. I enunciated clearly, uttering the words that were carved into both our marrows. Now, can you still walk, Wolfgang? Boom. It was like a thunderclap in the depths of Wolfgang's soul. Time seemed to flow backward at this moment. It wasn't just a question. It was the first hand extended to him when he was in total despair. It was the first spark that ignited the flame called hope in his heart. Don't underestimate the resilience of the wolfkin. The same answer, almost a choked roar, broke through Wolfgang's throat. Hot tears finally broke through the frozen dam, surging from Wolfgang's ice-blue wolf eyes. His broad shoulders shook uncontrollably. It was the release of grief, loneliness, and frustration that had been suppressed for far too long, finally finding a home. I smiled and turned to leave. Follow. Yes. At this moment, in the study of the Black Marquis's mansion, Salis was carefully checking the family's tax reports. The old butler, Sebastian, slid in silently, holding a special small metal cylinder bearing the raven emblem. He placed the cylinder gently on the wide mahogany desk in front of Salis Black. Young Master Salis. A letter has arrived via young Master Eli's Raven. 3 letters in total. Salis looked up upon hearing this, a flicker of imperceptible light passing through his deep blue eyes. 3. He put down his quill and leaned forward slightly. Leave mine, and take the other 2 to Father and Royce yourself. Young Master. 1 is for young Master Royce. 1 is to be presented to the Marquis. And there is 1 more. Sebastian bowed slightly. It is from Captain Buck to the Marquis. Salis's fingertips stopped moving, and a trace of indescribable disappointment and self-mockery flashed through his heart. He was silent for 2 seconds. Understood. For the letter to Father, please trouble yourself to make a trip to the royal capital and deliver it personally. As for the 1 for Royce, I will send it to him later. As you command, young Master Salis. Sebastian didn't ask another question and retreated silently. Salis was left alone in the study. He looked at the neatly trimmed shrubs in the courtyard outside the window, his fingertips curling unconsciously before slowly relaxing. In the end, he picked up the dry tax report again. Royal Capital Orlandia, Leon's office. Leon rubbed his throbbing temples. He had just finished an exhausting argument with the Royal Minister of Finance regarding military funding. Sebastian emerged from the shadows in the room and placed the 2 letters before him. Marquis, a letter from young Master Eli, and a letter from Captain Buck. Leon waved his hand wearily, signaling he understood. Leon's gaze fell on Buck's letter first. He broke the wax seal and unfolded the paper. As his eyes scanned the lines, his brow furrowed tighter and tighter. The letter was filled with praise for me. Steady, decisive, possessing leadership, deeply loved by the people, and having established a foothold in the wasteland in such a short time. I had even subdued a group of unruly wolfkin warriors. The lines overflowed with undisguised admiration. Leon couldn't help but let out a soft snort. This little brat, when did he learn to buy people's hearts? Even Buck. Could it be that he caught some dirt on Buck? However, when he carefully examined Buck's unique, staccato handwriting and confirmed that it was indeed Buck's own hand, the suspicion on Leon's face was gradually replaced by an expression of disbelief. Who was Buck? A trusted personal guard who had followed him for many years, climbing out of mountains of corpses and seas of blood, the vice-commander of the Black Raven Knights, a man whose character was as straight and hard as iron. To receive such high praise from Buck? Could it be that his dissolute 3rd son, who only knew how to cause trouble and exhaust him, had truly been reborn in the wasteland? A trace of extremely faint relief quietly sprouted in his heart. With this complex mood, Leon opened my letter. The beginning of the letter was rambling, with praise for himself taking up nearly 2/3 of the space. Leon read on with patience, his mouth twitching uncontrollably. Father is wise and martial. Father is far-sighted. Father's brilliance is like the sun and moon, illuminating the direction for the Black family to move forward. Leon felt a strong sense of nausea rush to his head, and the veins on his forehead couldn't help but throb. This brat. His flattery skills have certainly improved. He skimmed over the teeth-achingly flowery language, and his eyes finally landed on the last few lines of the letter. When the words "mithril mine" caught his eyes, he sprang up from his wide chair. Me? Mithril mine? Leon's eyes stared fixedly at the 3 words on the letter, as if he wanted to burn through them. The hand holding the letter also trembled violently and uncontrollably. Mithril mine? Is it really a mithril mine? The West? That godforsaken place? He muttered these words repeatedly, as if possessed. Marquis, please calm down. Sebastian waved his hand, and thick shadows gradually covered the entire room. Leon ignored him, his chest heaving violently, his heavy breathing particularly clear in the silent study. Seb, did you see? Mithril mine. He said he found a mithril mine. Mithril, the top-tier metal on the Ares continent, possessed top-tier ductility, conductivity, and hardness. In ancient times, it was often used in the creation of magic items. In today's Erlandia, there were only rumors of small amounts of mithril in the west and north, and most mithril flowed into the kingdom from the Midsummer Islands overseas. The Black family only had some knights in their most elite Black Raven knights equipped with weapons containing low amounts of mithril. The Black family's ancestral Cold Raven was a weapon forged from mithril. Sebastian took the letter from the trembling Marquis, his gaze sweeping over the key paragraphs. My lord. The old butler put down the letter, his voice still steady, but his speaking speed was a few beats faster than usual. The West is vast with complex geology. Historically, mithril veins have indeed appeared there, and it is also rich in various rare minerals, the most famous being the gold mines upon which the LaRoche family rose to power. Although mithril veins are extremely rare, they are not impossible, especially in certain special areas of the West related to ancient geological activity. And the young master mentioned in the letter that the vein is accompanied by special rock layers that are extremely hard and contain chaotic energy. This indeed conforms to the characteristics of known mithril veins and does not seem fabricated. Combined with the recent performance of young Master Eli described in Captain Buck's letter. Therefore, this matter has a considerable possibility of being true. Possibility? A considerable possibility. That brat, that scoundrel. He this time. It's as if the god of light kicked his ass hard with a boot. The old butler, who had been thinking for a while, frowned. My lord, Sebastian's voice lowered. This matter is of great importance, far exceeding the ordinary. Once the news of a mithril mine leaks, regardless of whether it is true or false, it is enough to set off a bloodbath in the royal capital and even the entire kingdom. At that time, young Master Eli and his territory will be the first to bear the brunt, inevitably becoming the target of everyone, and will be crushed to pieces. The ecstasy on Leon's face subsided slightly, replaced by a deep gravity. Sebastian's words instantly woke him from the stupor caused by the huge surprise. Mithril. This was not just wealth, but a strategic resource capable of attracting countless jackals, tigers, and leopards. An innocent man is innocent, but his treasure is his crime. One wrong move, and it would be a catastrophe for Eli and the Black family. Leon's face turned completely gloomy. He slowly sat back in his chair, his fingers tapping unconsciously on the cold desk. You mean? Leon's gaze turned toward his old butler. Sebastian bowed slightly. We must keep this information strictly contained. I suggest I travel secretly to the Obsidian territory to verify the mine and assist me. No. Leon rejected the idea firmly. He stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the bustling royal capital, Erlandia. You going yourself? You are the Black family's head steward. Your every move is scrutinized. If you suddenly vanish, the Montauban family's spies will immediately grow suspicious. He turned. Sebastian, no one else can know, especially my wife. If she finds out, the Montaubans will know, and the entire elite circle will be buzzing. It would be catastrophic for me and our family. Leon slammed his fist against the window frame. Those hyenas would tear me apart, seize the mithril, and use it to incite another campaign against us, just like they did to my brother. The initial shock gave way to a cold, heavy reality weighing on them both. The mithril was a Pandora's box. Leon took a deep breath, sharpening his gaze. Wait for Buck. His report is the only basis for our next move. Until then, the mithril mine does not exist. He sat back down and held my letter, igniting a wisp of black battle chi from his fingertips. With a soft hiss, the intelligence, along with the sycophantic praise, turned to ash. Sebastian, Leon said, his voice weary yet authoritative. Prepare. Bring Buck to me the moment he returns. Keep it secret. As you command, Marquis. Brandon's massive caravan alerted the sentries from afar. I sent Ika and my guards to meet them, spotting the heavily laden wagons and a line of new slaves. However, my eyes were immediately drawn to one glaring figure, clad in flashy golden armor. The man was as conspicuous as a banner, his blonde hair shimmering in the sun. He was gesturing at the crude wooden fences and construction site. He kept talking to a weary-looking Brandon, making my temple throb. Clark Graham. I hadn't even figured out how to recruit this powerhouse, and here he was, delivering himself. Eli. Clark's golden eyes lit up. He shouted and spurred his horse forward. A magnificent white horse surged ahead of the caravan toward me. I barely steadied my own mount, my face darkening. You black crow. Clark hugged me, his voice choking. Do you know how worried I was when I heard you were exiled to this hellhole? Not even a letter. Are you human? Let go. I'm a pioneer lord, not an exile. A pioneer? Right, Clark said, his fake tears vanishing instantly. That's amazing. Adventure. Conquest. Building a kingdom in the wilderness. It's so romantic. He waved his arms excitedly. I wanted to come immediately, but that old man of mine. He mimicked the Marquis. Nonsense. The western border is no place for you. Stay and train. He leaned in close to me. I begged my sister for 3 days until she lent me her savings. 300 gold coins. He pointed to the knights behind him wearing the Graham family's thorn rose crest. These are my family's vassal knights. They heard I was following a legendary lord and didn't hesitate to join. He didn't let me get a word in. With us here, we'll crush every beast and bandit. We'll make our names ring out across this land. I signaled Brandon for help. Ahem. Brandon coughed loudly, cutting off Clark's speech. Clark pouted, glancing at Brandon before nodding solemnly. Right, Brandon, you've worked hard. Did you get the supplies? Brandon reported respectfully. Yes, my lord. The inventory was reported earlier. He added regretfully, however, the purple spiral bean seeds you requested were unknown to every merchant in Thorn City. Understood. I nodded, unsurprised. I looked at the wandering, amazed Clark. Ika, take young Master Graham and his friends to get settled next to the Lord's mansion. Yes, my lord. Ika stepped forward. Wait. Eli, I haven't. Clark was dragged away by Ika and the knights, protesting loudly. With the noise gone, I looked toward the newly cleared farmland. Brandon, go rest. Hardy, the agricultural officer, trotted over. My lord, is everything ready? Yes, the land is divided and prepped. The slaves and freemen are organized, and the tools and oxen have been distributed. We are ready to plow and sow. Looking at the organized fields and new equipment, the old official seemed rejuvenated. Good. Let the spring plowing begin. Get to work. Teams 1 through 3, take the wheat to the east. Teams 4 through 6, take the potatoes to the west. Move. Or bellowed. The workers grabbed their tools and swarmed toward their assigned plots. Hold the plow steady. Keep the ox straight. Don't sow too densely. Break those dirt clods. Hardy ran along the ridges like a wound-up clock, his face flushed with excitement. He demonstrated plowing, corrected clumsy sowing, and scolded stubborn oxen. Stupid ox. Walk straight. Hardy swung his small whip. His gravelly voice became the heartbeat of the fields. I rode along the ridge, watching the stirring scene. On the red earth, men with bronzed, muscular torsos sweated under the sun. They swung heavy hoes to break the stubborn soil. Women followed, skillfully burying wheat seeds and potato chunks into the fertile ground. Their movements were focused, their faces reflecting hope rather than numbness. Eve, keep it straight. Bury it deep. Simple, powerful work chants rose from the fields, binding everyone's strength and spirit together. Heavy labor felt surprisingly bearable. Even the soldiers guarding the new slaves set aside their weapons, caught up in the fervor, and joined the work. Clark had slipped away from Ika's supervision and wandered to the fields. Standing on the ridge, he watched the grand scene of labor, his usual cynical mask replaced by a look of stunned focus in his golden eyes. He opened his mouth, but remained silent, barely breathing. I reined in my horse, watching quietly. My people were sowing the seeds of the future into this war-torn, desolate land with their own hands. The sweat-soaked backs, the rhythmic chants, the scent of fresh soil, and the light returning to once numb eyes. It all surged into a powerful, invisible tide that struck at my heart. I inhaled the vibrant air, wiped a trace of moisture from my eyes, and set my jaw with firm resolve. It will happen. At the edge of the camp, the wolfkin quarters presented a different scene. Dozens of wolf pups huddled in hay-lined sheds, whimpering and growling softly. Young wolfkin warriors hovered nearby, treating the pups like fragile treasures. Some mimicked a mother wolf's grooming, while others curled up to provide warmth and comfort. Aji even snuck a particularly fierce pup into his fur coat, leaving only its head exposed. He reluctantly returned it after a stern glare from Wolfgang. A strange, wild tenderness blossomed in this small corner of the world. The first spring of Obsidian territory had truly begun. Inside the Lord's Mansion council chamber, a massive, rough-hewn log table dominated the center, surrounded by wooden chairs. The walls were bare stone and timber, the floor was packed earth. The only decorations were a large map of the West, and a flag bearing the raven crest behind my seat. It was, to put it mildly, rustic. I sat at the head, twisting a letter between my fingers. Knight Eli Black, your loyalty and intelligence regarding the rebels are noted. If you retake Lucerne City and purge the rebels, I, in the name of La Roche and the authority of the Guardian of the West, grant you the title of Baron and 2 villages near Lucerne as your fief. A hollow promise. I tossed the letter aside, deep in thought. I suddenly realized something was off. Why Lucerne City? Checking the map, I saw it was merely a minor count's fief. It was neither wealthy nor rich in resources. While it was a decent spot in my barren corner, it was barely second-rate in the occupied West. There were far better choices: Emerald City with its turquoise mines, the transport hub of Kyle City, or the strategic Storm City. Baron Grum didn't choose those because he couldn't. He was just a small-time baron. Would the ambitious Federation nobles give up the fat prizes they'd already seized? They had claimed 300,000 troops. Even having that, they had 150,000. With 20,000 to 30,000 greedy opportunists remaining, I bet that stronger, craftier vultures were already entrenched in the wealthy cities. I was lucky they ignored my remote, barren black territory for now. But they weren't safe yet. Marauders, spies, and defeated rebel remnants could descend like starving wolves at any moment. I finally understood the Prime Minister's expansion decree. They knew far more than I did. A single piece of paper could drain the strength of non-Western nobles and the Federation army. A simple gambit that changed countless fates. Some didn't even get the chance to be pawns. They were discarded the moment they chose their territory. But I won't be your puppet. I stood up abruptly. Lynn Aurora, nearby, blushed at the sudden movement. She hesitantly opened her arms. I chuckled, pulling her into a hug, grounding myself in the reality of the moment. Lynn, find Brandon. Tell all the department heads to meet here. Lynn's ears turned bright red. She pushed me away and fled the chamber in a panic. I surveyed my core team. Brandon, 3 slave overseers, 3 freeman representatives, Old John, Hardy, Leon, Esther, Boar, Ika, and Wolfgang. And Clark, who was trying to look serious in the corner. The atmosphere lightened as I spoke. This is all thanks to our benevolent Lord Eli's guidance. Hardy chimed in quickly. Brandon glared at him, then hurriedly added, "Thanks to our wise lord." The others scrambled to agree. I twitched. I stood, hands on the table. Let's be brief. The safety of Obsidian territory is our primary concern. We must be stronger. Boar Ika, I looked at the 2 knight captains. Training must intensify. We need to move toward combat readiness. But our soldiers are split between training and menial tasks like patrolling and guarding, which dilutes their effectiveness. Boar nodded, looking pained. You're right, my lord. The men are exhausted after their shifts. So, I declared, it changes today. From the slaves and top-performing freemen, select 50 strong, loyal men to form a patrol squad. Their sole duty: camp security, guard duty, and maintaining order. Free our combat soldiers from these chores. Their only task: train and fight. Clark counted on his fingers, confused. Old John and Hardy looked surprised at the concept of full-time soldiers. It meant feeding 100 non-productive mouths, but the security was worth it. Yes, my lord. Boar and Ika agreed eagerly. Good. I turned to Brandon and Old John. While the soldiers train, our defenses must harden. Our current wooden fences won't stop an organized enemy. I want a plan for stone walls. Old John waved his hands frantically. My lord, that's impossible right now. We don't have the manpower. Spring plowing is done, but mining, building, and logging are all critical. Second, stone is hard to source and transport. Third, it would take months or years, and we'd be bankrupted by the effort. Brandon added, Old John is right. We need to stabilize our foundation first. Large-scale construction attracts unwanted attention. I tapped the table, conceding the point. I had been too hasty. Your suggestions? Old John exhaled, relieved. My lord, no walls yet, but we can build sturdy wooden watchtowers on the high ground around the camp. They'll provide a clear view, lookouts, and horns to signal danger. We can station archers there. Low cost, high efficiency. I traced the map, then nodded. Agreed. Old John, Brandon, you two are in charge. Yes, my lord. Both men sighed in relief. The tension in the room eased. I surveyed my subordinates, instructing Hardy to oversee field management and irrigation now that spring plowing was complete. I ordered Leon to continue mining iron ore for trade, emphasizing that safety must remain the top priority. Esther confirmed the new fishery site was ready at the river bend. I approved, then asked Lynn Aurora for the current population count. Lynn reported a total of 1,050 people, 103 freemen, and 947 slaves, with 70% being able-bodied laborers. I realized that housing over 1,000 people in a rapidly expanding, primitive camp would inevitably lead to friction. I tasked Lame Tom with managing housing construction once the watchtowers were finished. I noted that increased population density would surely escalate conflicts. I established that minor disputes among slaves should be handled by squad leaders, with unresolved cases escalated to Brandon. Disputes involving freemen could be petitioned directly to me, though I warned that false accusations would be severely punished. I added that Boar's patrol squad would also be responsible for maintaining internal order. I then awkwardly addressed the growing stench in the camp, a problem many present acknowledged with bitter smiles. Indiscriminate defecation had become a severe sanitation risk, threatening to trigger an epidemic. To protect the camp's foundation, I made an unexpected decision. I ordered the construction of 4 public latrines, one in each cardinal direction of the camp. I instructed Hardy and Esther to ensure these deep pit latrines were cleaned and maintained regularly. Hardy was stunned but quickly agreed, acknowledging the urgency of the matter. Clark Graham, who had been struggling to stay quiet, finally burst out. He mocked me for micromanaging even the most basic bodily functions. I retorted sharply, threatening to put Clark in charge of waste disposal if he didn't stay silent. The next morning, mist still clung to the air. I received a chilling alert. A pack of adult scaled crocodiles, displaced from upstream, would pass through the Black Territory's river section by noon. Scaled crocodiles were violent, armored magical beasts, a nightmare for anyone living along the river. I immediately thought of the fishermen and slaves working downstream. I urgently grabbed Clark, insisting they head downstream to prevent a disaster. My shouting roused a groggy Clark from his cabin. Ignoring Clark's complaints, I dragged him toward the river, warning him of the approaching magical beasts. Upon hearing magical beast, Clark's eyes sharpened. He demanded his sword from his attendant. The knight quickly retrieved a blade adorned with thorn rose engravings. Downstream, at the calm river bend, 6 fishermen and a dozen slaves were busy working on makeshift rafts. They were driving stakes into the riverbed and repairing large fishing nets. Esther was surprised to see me arrive in such a rush. I didn't explain, simply ordering everyone to get to the shore immediately. Sensing the gravity of the situation, the workers obeyed without question. They scrambled off the rafts and onto the bank, with Esther shouting to speed up the evacuation. Clark spotted the threat, his pupils contracting as he lunged forward like a hunting leopard. With fluid grace, he snatched a sword from a nearby knight and hurled it. The blade whistled through the air like lightning, striking a shadow beneath the water. The sword hit its mark with a dull thud, followed by a roar. 3 massive, hideous scaled crocodiles erupted from the churning water. The beasts roared, their thick bone plates glistening. The largest crocodile had Clark's sword embedded in its neck. Blood stained the water, and the creature went into a pain-fueled frenzy, terrifying the onlookers. The 3 beasts locked their red eyes on Clark. Good, Clark challenged. He stepped forward, drawing his own thorn-rose sword. The elegant blade left its scabbard. As the injured crocodile lunged, Clark leaned back with impossible agility. He flicked his wrist, driving his blade into the soft tissue beneath the beast's eye. The crocodile collapsed, dead, into the shallows. The other 2 beasts charged. One snapped its jaws while the other swung its spiked tail like a war hammer. I watched, my heart racing. Clark laughed, spinning like a dancer to evade the snapping jaws. He narrowly missed the creature's teeth. Using his momentum, he swung his silver blade in a lethal arc. A deep, bone-severing wound opened on the second crocodile's throat. Blood sprayed as the beast's attack faltered. As the tail swept toward him, Clark leaped into the air like a monkey. He stepped on the tail to gain height. Suspended in the air, Clark's eyes turned sharp as he channeled his battle chi into the blade. He descended like a meteor, driving his sword into the junction of the third crocodile's neck and back. Break! The blade pierced the bone plates and pinned the beast to the mud. The crocodile twitched and went still. The entire battle had concluded in a breathtaking flash of violence. Clark landed gracefully, cleaned his blade, and sheathed it with a flourish. He shook his wet hair and basked in the cheers of the workers. The crowd hailed him as a hero, marveling at the legendary Graham family swordsmanship. I watched my friend, acknowledging that Clark possessed the talent of a true knight. I felt a pang of complex emotion, my mind drifting back to the past. I remembered a lavish banquet at a count's estate in the royal capital. Young Clark, dressed in fine attire, was surrounded by arrogant young nobles from the royal territory. He stood silent, clutching his clothes as they mocked him. Nearby, young I watched, bored, while eating fruit. Seeing the bullying, I, spoiled by my father, the captain of the royal capital guard, instantly lost my temper. Hey, you lot, shut up and get lost. I shoved into the group and punched the loudest, fattest boy in the face. Chaos erupted as I, using crude brawling techniques learned in military camps, tore through the group. I beat the nobles until they cried. Though the Marquis later punished me, Clark was left in awe. That day, a deep friendship was forged in the chaos. Later, as Clark's terrifying talent emerged, the Graham family tried to keep him away from the notorious troublemaker I. Yet, Clark's desire for freedom was unstoppable. He climbed walls and bribed servants to reach me. Lord Elot, the fisherman's cheers pulled me from my memories. I smiled and gave orders. Esther, process these crocodiles. Tonight, extra rations for all our fishermen and workers. Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord Clark. The atmosphere turned jubilant, mixing the relief of survival with the anticipation of a feast. I looked at Lynn Aurora, who stood nearby, her face flushed from the excitement of the battle. Let's go. I took her cool hand and led her to a quiet, pebble-strewn river bend. Lynn blushed but didn't pull away. The water was crystal clear, and the air smelled of wildflowers. I took off my boots and stepped in. I reached out to her with a relaxed smile. Come on, Lynn. Try it. It's refreshing. Lynn looked at my hand, her eyes sparkling with shy delight. She followed suit, removing her shoes to reveal her slender ankles. Placing her hand in mine, she tentatively stepped into the cool water. The pebbles underfoot and the cool current sent a wave of comfort through her. Lynn let out a happy gasp, and I laughed along with her. We waded in the shallows like 2 playful children. For a moment, we forgot the burdens of the territory and enjoyed the stolen peace. At the Black family's core residence in the royal capital, Marquis Leon Black sat at his desk, his fingers tapping rhythmically against the surface. The door opened, and the old butler, Sebastian, entered with a travel-worn Buck. Buck saluted. Marquis. Leon stopped tapping. Buck, How is the Obsidian territory? How is Eli? Buck stood straight and reported. My lord, young Eli is a different man. He is decisive, organized, and commands the respect of his people. In just a month, the camp is established, and even the unruly wolfkin are now his allies. He has truly stepped into his role as lord. Leon searched Buck's eyes for any sign of deception, but found only sincerity. Lord, responsibility. Leon repeated, his stubborn doubts melting away. A complex emotion replaced his skepticism. He leaned back, exhaling as if a heavy burden had been lifted. With Buck's confirmation, the possibility of a mithril mine became a serious reality. Good, very good, Leon said softly. Buck, rest well for 2 days. Thank you, my lord. Buck bowed. After resting, select a capable team to escort Scholar Alva, Master Glenn, and Tim Lawrence to the Black Territory. Buck looked up, stunned. Sending these core vassals was a massive shift of family resources. Had Eli's "we will meet again" remark really been a prophecy? My lord, this. Buck hesitated. Leon waved him off, pondering who should lead the mission. Royce. He lacks the resolve. Salus. He shook his head. Salus is needed here to manage the territory and handle the royal territory nobles. Buck, you are loyal, but politics and logistics are not your strength. The mithril mine required someone with authority, loyalty, and a good relationship with Eli. Leon frowned, searching for the right candidate. Sebastian, standing in the shadows, spoke. My lord, I should go myself. You? Leon looked displeased. Sebastian, you have served the Black family too long. Your presence represents the family. Leaving the capital would draw too many eyes. It's too risky. Sebastian offered a rare, meaningful smile. My lord, you are right. But what if Sebastian remained in the capital? Leon frowned, sensing his intent. Suddenly, the shadows in the corner began to churn. The darkness twisted and rose. It took on a clear form. A black tuxedo, silver-gray hair, gold-rimmed glasses. It was an exact replica of Sebastian. Within seconds, a shadow butler stood in the room. It bowed to the marquis, a perfect mirror image. The room fell into dead silence. Buck's jaw dropped. He looked from the shadow to the real Sebastian, struggling to keep his hand off his sword. Great butler. You aren't human? Leon's pupils contracted, shocked by the supernatural display. Sebastian remained calm. My lord, I have served 8 generations of the Black family. This long life has exceeded mortal bounds. He paused. This shadow can stay to handle daily affairs, fooling most observers. I will accompany Captain Buck to lead the exploration of the mine. This is the best way. Leon watched him, his fists slowly unclenching, his expression grave. Sebastian, are you sure? Splitting your shadow must come at a cost to a shadow demon. Sebastian bowed slightly. A small price. For the future of the Black family, and for young Eli, it is worth it. Meanwhile, in the Prime Minister's office in Orlandia, the atmosphere was stifling. Federico LaRoche stood by the window, his silhouette like a silent lion. Toscana Fernando, captain of the Royal Capital Guard, stood by his side. A knight in gold lion armor reported. Prime Minister, the investigation into all count-level families is complete. The listed families have all responded to the expansion edict, sending knights to the western border under the guise of exploration. Federico grunted in acknowledgement. The aide reported in a hushed tone that new leads had emerged regarding the Queen's murder. The trail points to a lethal poison known as the Silent Kiss. Colorless and odorless, it is distilled from the glands of a rare poison dart frog found only in the deepest rainforests of the Midsummer Islands, accessible only to master alchemists or those with deep ties to the region. It kills instantly via cardiac arrest, leaving the victim's body appearing entirely normal. Federico repeated the words Silent Kiss and Midsummer Islands, while facing away, his expression unreadable. Only his eyes betrayed a deep, bone-chilling murderous intent. Sensing the sudden drop in temperature, the aide bowed lower and cautiously added, My lord, the Duke of the East, the Russell family. They have the closest trade ties and even marriage alliances with the Midsummer Islands. Federico cut him off sharply. Turning around, his handsome, majestic face showed no emotion, only profound exhaustion. Where did you obtain this information? From the Lord Chamberlain's intelligence chief, Lord Bernard. Bathed in the golden sunset, Federico dismissed him with a curt leave. The aide scrambled away, relieved. Federico rubbed his black ring, engraved with a roaring golden lion, as Toscana Fernando sighed and spoke up. My lord, we must withdraw. The West is our foundation. The soldiers. Federico interrupted. Lucius is in the West. Give me time. Toscana sighed, feeling the Duke had become inscrutable since his daughter's death. They were trapped in a web tightening around Orlando, following a northern war so brutal it claimed 3 titled knights and countless commoners. Such carnage within the kingdom was unprecedented. Toscana watched the Duke's lonely figure depart and followed in silence. He recalled the ancient La Roche motto, blood for blood, tooth for tooth. In the log council hall, old John wore a faint, smug look, his face smeared with sawdust and dust. He pointed to a rough diagram for me. My lord, the 4 watchtowers are finished as ordered, built with tough iron fir from the deep woods, anchored by river stones and clay. Each is 8 meters high with a clear view, holding 4 men for scouting, signaling, or archery. The ladders are internal. I scanned the tower locations. I looked out the window at the rising wooden structures and nodded, satisfied. Good work, old John. Now, prioritize the internal layout, especially the new residential zone. Yes, my lord, John replied, energized. No sooner had John left than the agricultural officer, Hardy, entered, looking helpless. My lord, the 4 public latrines are built, with deep pits and cleaning crews assigned. And I knew the look. Hardy sighed, blushing. People aren't used to them. They find it troublesome. Many still just find a hidden corner. I rubbed my temples. I expected this. Understood. Hardy, issue this order. Anyone caught relieving themselves outside designated areas will be sentenced to 3 days of cleaning the public latrines. They must also dig up and bury the waste. Repeat offenders face double fines. Slaves will have their rations docked. I added, have the team leaders repeatedly lecture everyone on the dangers of plague. I want to see if their habits are more stubborn than my rules. Hardy nodded vigorously, his distress easing. Yes, my lord. As Hardy left, another piece of news rippled through the camp like a boulder in a lake. The Lord was recruiting 50 professional sheriffs. The news spread instantly, from newly freed commoners to strong laborers still under slave status. Everyone saw a chance to change their fate. Every eligible young man's eyes lit up. A sheriff meant escaping heavy labor and wearing a respectable uniform. It meant wielding a bit of authority. It meant serving the Lord directly, a path to an unlimited future. Sign me up, Count Elian. I am strong. Crowds swarmed the registration point Brandon had set up. Within half a day, over 200 had signed up, all eager and restless. When the list reached the council hall, I frowned at the messy, thick papyrus scroll. Over 200. I tapped the list. This is the first time we've established sheriffs. It's about order. If I pick thugs, I ruin my credibility and the foundation of the Black Territory. I looked at my core team. Brandon, Bohr, Ika, Wolfgang, Hardy, Esther, Lynn, and Clark leaned against the doorframe. We must be careful, I stated firmly. We will hold a public selection so everyone sees that this position isn't easily won. The central square became a makeshift arena. Over 200 candidates stood in formation, trying to look their best. A crowd of onlookers gathered, cheering and debating. The first round was simple, strength and endurance. 10 stone locks, ranging from 50 to 150 pounds, were laid out. The rules are simple. Bohr's voice boomed. Lift the 100-pound lock over your head and hold it for 3 seconds. Fail to lift it or drop it, and you're out. The square filled with grunts, roars, and heavy breathing. Hup, up, thud. Some turned red-faced, but succeeded, drawing cheers. Others couldn't lift the lock off the ground. Some stumbled and dropped it, drawing sighs of pity. A sturdy, shorter slave lifted the 100-pound lock cleanly. He wiped his sweat and smiled at me. He was one of the hardest workers in the mines. The first round culled half the crowd. The second round tested wisdom and fairness at several wooden tables. I sat in the center, with my council members flanking me. Even Wolfgang was forced to observe. Listen to the questions. My voice echoed. Each of you will come forward. I will present common disputes that might occur in the territory. You must explain how you would handle them as a sheriff and why. The council will score you. The atmosphere turned heavy. Question 1. Two freemen dispute a prime piece of land near a water source, both claiming priority. How do you resolve this? The first candidate, a burly man, suggested a fight to decide the winner. I remained expressionless. A second candidate suggested drawing lots, which Brandon immediately rejected. A third, a middle-aged freeman, proposed de-escalating the conflict first. Then, verify if there are witnesses. If inconclusive, allocate based on the Lord's principles, considering family size and labor capacity to maintain order. I was impressed, and Brandon and Lynn Aurora gave high marks. Question 2. A freeman lost a new iron hoe and accuses a slave sharing his shack of theft. The slave denies it vehemently. How do you handle it? Question 3. Patrols find a slave sneaking out at night to gather medicine for a sick companion. Should they be punished? How? These practical, tricky questions acted as mirrors, reflecting the candidates' characters and judgment. Some favored harsh punishment. Others tried to appease both sides. Scores were tallied and ranked. After a tense afternoon of evaluation, the final list was ready. As sunset bathed the camp in gold, the remaining 100 candidates waited anxiously. I stood on a platform with the list, Lynn Aurora by my side. When your name is called, step forward. I announced. Kent, Hanson, Milo, ATU. Those called beamed with joy, standing tall and shouting, "Here." They stepped forward to the front line, including ATU, the diligent slave from the mine, who was flushed with excitement. 50 men, tested by strength and wit, stood in formation before me. Congratulations. I scanned their faces. You are the first sheriff squad of Obsidian Territory. Your duty is to maintain order, protect the people, and enforce the rules. Justice is paramount. Abuse your power to oppress the people, and I will be the first to punish you. Yes, my lord, the 50 voices roared, followed by cheers from the crowd. They were tasked with patrols, guard duty, warehouse security, and mine perimeter surveillance. The rejected candidates felt disappointed but respected the selection. Luca, the boy once caught stealing grain, watched the powerful sheriffs with envy. Brandon had rejected him due to his age. Pouting, Luca looked at his thin arms, then ran back to his mother's embrace. Mom, I want to grow up fast. The new sheriffs began their duties immediately. Soldiers were now free from menial tasks to focus entirely on training. The training grounds were soon filled with the sounds of drills and clashing blades. I watched from the council hall, my tension easing slightly. Order is power. A blue light appeared. Ding. Purple information acquisition. In 2 days, Baron Grum's 20-man elite scout team, led by Silver Tier Night Owl Ball, will arrive at the abandoned mine to investigate the disappearances. Purple intel. Grum was investigating the Vulture Gang's silence. They had failed to stage the scene to look like a magical beast attack. Grum was suspicious. What now? I paced, weighing 2 options. Option 1. Let them investigate. The result. The experienced Night Owl Ball would find the combat traces and corpses. He would deduce that an organized force had wiped out the Vulture Gang right under their noses. Grum would never tolerate such a threat. A hidden, unknown threat was unacceptable to him. He would launch massive probes or a full-scale assault to crush them. Obsidian Territory would be exposed without walls. Their development was too fragile for a defensive war. Option 2. Kill them. With their current strength, they could eliminate the 15-man team in Ball. Wiping them out would buy time for growth. But it was a gamble. If a Silver Tier Knight and his elite squad vanished without a trace, Grum would realize a powerful enemy existed and would likely come himself. Was there enough time to grow strong enough to face him? I shouldn't have let Buck go, I muttered. I realized the weight of command. A single decision determined the fate of 1,000 people. Time ticked away like a venomous snake. I forced myself to analyze the pros and cons. Time was the priority. I must buy time. Passive exposure meant slow death. Active strikes offered a slim chance of survival. I would bet on the time difference, that Grum would be cautious of an unknown enemy before escalating. Kill them, I decided. I ordered Lynn Aurora to gather the troops and woke Clark. All combat forces gathered at the training ground. Who are we hitting? Clark asked excitedly. I briefed them on Ball and the scout team. My decision: leave no survivors. Turn the mine into their grave. Clark grinned. I'll take Ball. Wolfgang, Boar, and Ika stood ready for battle. Good, I commanded. Brandon, use your old skills. Take the fastest horses and head to Lucerne City. I need to know about any movement of Grum's troops over 50 men. Stay hidden. You are our eyes, not our fists. Brandon nodded, his professionalism overriding his complaints. Understood, my lord. Not even a fly will leave Lucerne without me knowing. He left with his scouts. I instructed Wolfgang to secure the mine's perimeter and cut off all escape routes. Wolfgang obeyed, ordering Ika to position her soldiers on the high ground at the mine entrance with bows and javelins. They were to pin down anyone attempting to resist or flee. Clark was tasked with eliminating Night Owl Ball immediately after the initial volley. I emphasized preventing any signals or chaos, while Boar and I handled the front lines. The group responded with lethal intent. I ordered them to depart for the abandoned mine, arriving 2 days early to set traps. I mounted my horse, and the troops set off, shattering the morning silence of the Obsidian territory. The silent, sharp force moved toward the red mine, destined to be stained with blood. My expression was cold as iron. The abandoned mine was a jagged scar on the desolate western border. Over 2 days, my team and I transformed the site into a deadly trap. Ika and 30 elites clung to the steep, weathered rock walls like shadows. Covered in dust, they waited with sharpened javelins and loaded crossbows. Wolfgang and I were positioned in a nearby natural rock hollow. Wolfgang lay behind a boulder, his hand steady on his longbow. As the sun burned away the morning mist, dust clouds appeared on the horizon. 20 scouts in light chainmail, armed with curved blades and riding bows, approached. They moved in a tight, cautious formation. The leader was exceptionally tall and scanned the area vigilantly. He carried a heavy mace. It was Night Owl Ball. They halted at the edge of a rock-strewn area, 200 paces from the entrance. Ball scanned the silent entrance and cliffs, sensing something was wrong. Too quiet, he muttered. It's too clean. Hark, take a man and check the entrance. The others drew their blades, moving in a triangle formation toward the dark tunnel. As they entered, Ball realized the trap and roared. Retreat. Back to Lucerne City. He knew the Vulture Gang was finished, and they needed to report. Attack, I commanded. The air erupted with the sound of bowstrings and whistling projectiles. A rain of javelins and bolts descended upon the scouts. Screams of agony filled the air. Caught off guard, the scouts had no time to react, for were instantly pierced and pinned to the ground. 5 or 6 others fell, clutching grievous wounds. The initial volley decimated their numbers. Ambush. Take cover. Counterattack. Ball roared, deflecting a bolt with his mace, demanding to know who dared ambush Baron Grum's men. Kill them all, I commanded, firing a battle chi-infused arrow. The arrow pierced the scout's throat, silencing him instantly. My turn. Clark laughed, charging toward Ball. Clark locked eyes with Ball, his sword thrusting toward the scout's face. Ball felt the terrifying pressure of Clark's high silver rank battle chi, and his heart sank. He channeled his own initial silver rank energy. The mace clashed against the sword. Sparks flew as the impact shattered Bale's grip, leaving his hand bloodied. Ball was knocked back, his horse stumbling, while Clark continued his relentless assault. Every strike was precise and lethal, leaving Ball no room to breathe. Kill. Boar charged like a tiger. His heavy warhammer shattered a scout's blade and crushed his chest, sending him flying. Who are you? Baron Grum will make you regret this. Ball roared. Ball was covered in blood, his chainmail shredded. He fought with animalistic rage, screaming threats. Too much talk, Clark sneered. He shifted his stance, his sword moving like a silver dragon. The blade struck true. It pierced Bale's remaining eye and exited through the back of his skull. Ball went rigid, his defiance frozen. His mace dropped, and he collapsed into the rocks. Leave one alive, I ordered, stopping the slaughter. Boar disarmed the last scout, and soldiers pinned him to the ground. No other enemies remained standing. The battle ended faster than expected. In less than a quarter hour, the 20 elites and Ball were wiped out. I stepped over the corpses to the captive. A soldier ripped off the scout's helmet, revealing a young, bloodied face. What is the strength of Grum and his men? Speak, I asked calmly. The scout spat blood, his eyes fierce. Never. Kill me. Baron Grum will avenge us. He couldn't finish his threat. I signaled. Boar's hammer descended with a dull thud. The scout's skull shattered. Boar wiped his weapon, expressionless. As you command, my lord. Wolfgang and his wolfkin emerged from the bushes. They dragged 2 more corpses. Their rear guard, Wolfgang reported. I nodded. The enemy was completely annihilated. My own men suffered only minor scratches. A perfect ambush. I exhaled, having won the gamble and secured a vital window of time. Clean the battlefield. Drag all bodies into the mine. Strip the gear, I ordered. Wolfgang, guard the perimeter. Boar, Ika, gather all usable arrows and bolts. Ignite everything flammable inside. I ordered. Soldiers piled kindling and the scouts' clothing into the mine shaft. Thick, acrid smoke billowed from the collapsed gaps. I departed immediately, returning to black territory by dusk. As I dismounted, a familiar screech echoed above. A black shadow dove, landing on my shoulder. It was Machio, who nuzzled my cheek and raised a claw. Attached to the claw was a waterproof cylinder, a black family raven message tube. My heart skipped a beat. I opened the seal and withdrew a roll of high-quality parchment. It was a letter from Marquis Leon Black. The Marquis stated he had dispatched reinforcements to handle the mithril mine, retaining full authority. The final line, written in a softer hand, read, "The western border is treacherous. Stay safe." I stood silent, clutching the paper. Machio pecked at my face, demanding food. I reread the letter in my room, finally finding relief. Master Glenn, Scholar Edgar, 50 Black Raven Knights. I murmured. The mention of the 50 Black Raven Knights erased my lingering anxiety from the mine battle. My father's support exceeded expectations. Master Glenn was a legendary craftsman capable of arming a small army. Scholar Edgar was a core strategist, well-versed in history, geography, and alchemy. The 50 Black Raven Knights represented 1/5 of the family's elite guard. With Buck leading them, this force was a lethal blade capable of dominating the wilderness. With silver rank officers, bronze tier elites, and the gold rank Buck, I realized I had underestimated the mithril mine's value. Haha, I knew we'd meet again, I smirked. I opened my window, letting the evening breeze hit my face. The 1,000 rebels in Lucerne City remained a threat, but now the enemy was exposed while I remained hidden. Baron Grum would struggle to locate the black territory in the vast wilderness. With the new knights and Wolfgang's wolfkin, I calculated I could hold out much longer than expected. Grum would be furious over his lost scouts, but also wary. He wouldn't dare commit his entire force without knowing my true strength. Boar, I called out. Recruit 50 more soldiers immediately. Prioritize strong slaves and reliable freemen. Offer them standard soldier wages. Yes, my lord. Boar left to execute the order. I tapped my fingers on the windowsill. With the reinforcements and existing troops, my fighting force would approach 200. Under Boar and Ika's training, they would quickly become combat ready. More importantly, I now had a structured knight's order. If they repelled a major assault, I might even challenge the Baron. A true title and fief would mean shedding my precarious status as a pioneer lord and securing the Obsidian territory legally. It would mark my foundation in the wilderness and my entry into the kingdom's power struggle. The temptation was great, but the pressure was immense. I reviewed my ledgers. Less than 200 core fighters and only 40 skilled craftsmen. Most of my population were farmers, and food production was barely sufficient. I lacked the manpower to expand, build defenses, and maintain an army simultaneously. The reinforcements were a double-edged sword, a massive logistical burden. Feeding and equipping 50 elite knights and 50 new recruits would drain my remaining 100 gold coins in under a month. I rubbed my temples. War, construction, and maintenance all required money I didn't have. It was a vicious cycle. No people, no production, no production, no money, no money, no people. If only I had a proper administrator. I sighed. Managing a growing territory was overwhelming. Noland was experienced but tired, Esther was young, and Hardy lacked military logistics knowledge. I desperately needed a seasoned steward. I shook off the frustration. I looked at the map of the western border. Patience was necessary. Other pioneer lords, abandoned by their families, were likely struggling for basic survival. My start in the Obsidian territory was already superior. Don't get ahead of yourself, I told myself. I refocused on immediate tasks. I finalized recruitment standards to balance attraction with fiscal stability. I met with Leon and Hardy to check crop progress. I urged Old John to accelerate construction and perimeter defenses. Days later, at dusk, Wolfgang arrived at the council hall, looking grave. My lord. Wolfgang, how was the hunt? I asked. Scarce. Game is gone near the perimeter. We went deeper. I tensed. Did you run into trouble? No magical beasts, Wolfgang replied, choosing his words carefully. We found a place. Ancient, swallowed by the forest. Ruins? I asked. Yes. Huge stones with strange carvings, buried under vines. It didn't look human-made. Not human. I stood up. Lin, fetch Hardy. Hardy arrived quickly. My lord. Hardy, you're a local. What do you know about the deep Night Song Forest? Any legends of non-human ruins? Hardy looked puzzled. I'm from Oak Town, my lord. I don't know the deep forest well, but as for legends... He frowned, his eyes clouding with memory as he struggled to recall. Legends abound, mountain spirits, trolls, and ancient giant tombs. The elders say they once thrived, but are now extinct. Hardy lowered his voice, speaking with the gravity of one sharing an ancient secret. However, a legend persists in the West, especially in villages near the Night Song Forest. Elders claim the children of the forest dwell in the deepest, moonless core. They sing together at night, which is how the forest earned its name. Children of the forest? I asked. Hardy nodded, eyes filled with awe. They are said to be impossibly beautiful, with pointed ears, living for centuries. They are nature's favorites, communicating with flora and fauna. They despise human noise and destruction, living in reclusive seclusion. He paused, choosing his words carefully before uttering the term synonymous with mystery and elegance. People call them elves. Elves, a mythic race from songs and tapestries, tied to this very land? I turned to Hardy, eyes burning with interest. Elves? What else do you know? Hardy, nervous under my intense gaze, searched his memory. My lord, I only know fragments from my ancestors. Long before the Orlando Kingdom unified the West, this was an independent kingdom, and the man who founded it, Hardy's voice dropped, was our duke's ancestor, Roderick LaRoche. Legend says Roderick LaRoche was no ordinary man. Lost in the Night Song Forest and near death, he was saved by an elf maiden with silver hair like moonlight. She not only saved him, but fell in love with the warrior, eventually becoming his queen. With the elf queen's mysterious knowledge, forest blessings, and the support of elven warriors, Roderick established the kingdom's foundation on this land of beasts and demi-humans. I and my guards held our breath. An elf queen? It was the stuff of legends. Then what? Clark asked. With such a start, how did it become just a legend? Hardy's expression grew complex. No one knows for sure. Legend says after becoming king, Roderick changed. He stopped trusting the forest's power and began to fear and reject everything his elf queen represented. After a mysterious, violent conflict, Hardy swallowed hard. He killed his own elf queen. He ordered all elves in the kingdom expelled and destroyed all records and shrines related to them. Since then, elves vanished from the West, becoming mere myth. The hall fell silent. Killed the wife who saved him? What about outside the West? I broke the silence. My lord, the Southern Territory has scattered legends, but none as heavy as those here. After Hardy left, I fell into deep thought. Could Wolfgang's discovery be elven? What lies inside? Lost knowledge? Ancient weapons? Or a cursed trap? Temptation and risk battled within me. Given the LaRoche family's betrayal, what hatred might the elves harbor for their descendants? Would entering their ruins invite unimaginable retaliation? We go. I stood, eyes gleaming. Wolfgang, lead the way. Or, take 10 guards. That's the spirit. Clark cheered, excited. This is an adventure straight out of A Knight's Tale. The next morning, as mist lingered, the small team followed Wolfgang deep into the Night Song Forest. Ancient trees formed a light-blocking canopy. Human traces vanished. Giant vines coiled like snakes around massive trunks, and glowing moss covered the rocks. Wolfgang used his wolfkin instincts to navigate the pathless thicket. Clark set aside his usual bravado, sensing the surroundings. After half a day, as sunlight faded, Wolfgang stopped and gave a low, guttural signal. Pushing aside giant ferns, the team gasped at the sight before them. In a clearing surrounded by giant trees stood ruins. These were clearly not human-made. Fallen pillars, each requiring 3 or 4 men to encircle, were draped in moss and vines. They were carved with complex, alien patterns, abstract symbols of stars, suns, moons, and strange beasts. In the dim light, the carvings seemed to pulse with life. The scattered stone slabs were polished smooth, with seamless joinery far beyond current human capabilities. Despite centuries of erosion, the scale remained breathtaking. Surviving walls showed outlines of giant arches and exquisite reliefs. The ruins were shrouded in a solemn, tragic silence. Like a giant's tomb forgotten by time, it whispered of past glory and final extinction. Good heavens! Clark dropped his flippancy. This is grander than the Cathedral of Light. Is this really Elven? My heart raced. Find the entrance, I commanded. They moved deeper. They navigated past fallen pillars and thorns, stopping before a relatively intact stone wall. Above, an underground river surged out, forming a 10-meter waterfall that crashed into a bottomless pool with a thunderous roar. Eli, it's a dead end. Clark shouted over the noise. I approached the waterfall. Lynn Aurora held me back, but I took her hand. Clark, check behind the falls. Clark poked his sword through. It's empty. Follow me. They stepped through the water into a hidden space. Behind the falls, hidden by vines and moss, lay a flat area distinct from the surrounding rock. I had the soldiers clear the debris. A 4-meter-tall stone gate emerged, carved from a single piece of warm, jade-like gray stone. The doors were closed and smooth as mirrors. To the left stood a stone tablet of the same material, engraved with strange symbols. It matched the style of the ruins. Is this Elven script? Clark touched the cold symbols. Looks like gibberish. Eli, can you read it? I frowned and shook my head. Just then, Lynn Aurora, who had been quietly observing, fixed her gaze on the tablet, her brow furrowing slightly. Isla's clear eyes flickered with confusion, her lips moving unconsciously as if struggling to recognize something or awakening a dormant instinct. Amidst the roar of the waterfall, she stammered a faint, intermittent phrase. Open. The gate requires the key. King's blood. The whisper struck me and Clark like thunder. Clark spun around, his golden eyes wide with shock. Staring at Isla as if she were a ghost, Clark demanded, You recognize these ancient runes? Who exactly are you, Miss Isla? Clark, I barked, stepping between them. I was stunned that she knew an extinct Elven language, but protecting her was my priority.